Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the All About Counter-Strike podcast. It's episode 56. We're ready to rock and roll. We've got a special guest for you, especially with everything that's been going on with the major, the VRS, and all that kind of thing. I've just been on full dad duties. I think I've played one game in total, so I've just been chilling. I've been watching a bit of CS.
No Gekishin Squadra?
No Gekishin Squadra, no CS. I've just been watching YouTube videos when I had time. That's about it. And watching some of the streams and stuff.
Is that
I
like
was obviously
holding the baby, phone, YouTube kind of thing?
Definitely. Waiting for him to burp, waiting for him to fall asleep, all that good stuff, you know. But I've been watching some of the CS, watching a lot of the Heartbreak and obviously the celebrations at the same time, which we'll get into in a little bit. But DW, what have you been up to? It's your birthday today, so a big happy birthday to you. I've forced you to film an episode on your 34th birthday.
35th birthday.
35th, sorry. I'm so sorry. 35th
it's fine.
Birthday.
I do look young. No, but I've been celebrating Easter here in Sweden. So we went with my girlfriend over to her parents, just drank some rum and had good food. That's pretty much what I do.
See, look, this is it. There's no Easter eggs. There's just rum. Did you have an Easter egg?
No. We had I don't even think I had Easter candy or anything.
Oh, wow. So what is Easter for you?
Food, alcohol, and good company.
Okay.
It's like a mini Christmas in some sense, but not.
You can't compare Easter and Christmas.
No presents, so it's only the good parts, you know?
Not the ones that cost you too much money. That's what you're trying to say. Yeah. For me, Easter was just it was non-existent. Yeah, it was just something that went by, all baby, everything like that. I'll do my usual as well, so everyone knows when we're recording in case some news or other stuff comes out that you'll go, why did you guys miss this? It is the 7th of April right now. It is 8:29 for me, which means it is 9:29 in the evening for Devilwalk. Still darkness outside. Has your weather improved at all? Or are you still cold and dark and gloomy?
I mean, let's say like this. Like when I was like in my teens, for example, the lake outside would be frozen, completely solid. You could walk over it. There would be snow everywhere, sometimes to like a meter. Like snow on the ground at this time of year. Now there's 0.
Oh, so you
like
actually
the river is flowing, everything is gone.
Global warming.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's like plus 5-6 degrees. Nothing major, but enough to make sure the snow is gone.
Oh, we had some real sunny, warm days, like 24, 25 here in Lisbon. It was chilling. I just walking with the baby outside, making sure we get some vitamin D.
You go over the bridge for the beach?
Mate, I'm not gone that far. That's a lot of traveling with a baby. That's a lot of distance.
But not really.
It's not okay. It's not far, but I mean, it's further than we're going to go right now. Yeah.
Okay. Don't you just live like right next to the bridge? Kind of.
I live from car. I live like 5 minutes from the bridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not far. It's not far. But I mean, at the moment, baby needs feeding, baby needs a lot of sleeping. So it's just walking around a nice park in the warm, chilling, doing all that good stuff. I do want to play some CS though. I definitely want to play some CS. After watching significant amounts of CS, I've got the itch again. So we have to make that happen. But let's bring in our guest. And it's a very special guest in this. This is a man who lives and breathes everything to do with the VRS. He has joined us here on the podcast once before. His name is Mischief, aka Finn. Thank you very much for joining us again, mate. And just first of all, how are you? Because this one seemed like the wildest yet.
I mean, you two have just been talking about the weather, and I don't think I've been outside in a week pretty much. It's quite nice to hear. You're like, oh, it's really sunny out. Oh, the river's running. And I'm like, the sun's still shining outside. I haven't been out in a long time now, but I'm really happy it's over. It's obviously been incredibly busy. You had HLTV articles dropping where race is too close to call. I'm trying to work it out on the fly. I don't have a clue what's going on. It's been really busy. I'm happy it's over.
And people have to look at this, right? We spoke about this before. You don't work for Valve. You're not working for HLTV. You are doing this from your own passion, your own drive of wanting to understand it all, enjoying the data, enjoying the numbers. But there is a reason many people cannot get this, cannot understand. It doesn't matter how much of an expert you are. It doesn't matter all the staff people you have at HLTV. They're trying to predict some points. Sometimes it's not exactly true, right, within the amount of points it has there. It's very tough to do, and there's so many different things weighted in it. But you are one of the few people that have got it nailed down. But even you get confused at times by where it could go, what percentages you're putting out. What has it been like this season compared to last season for you? Like, how much more chaotic, how much more stressful?
It's been a complicated one. So like last time, for example, a big thing that can affect for predictions is obviously the cases where a team schedule changes. Say, for example, a team suddenly like FaZe decides to go to an open LAN, they're going to have a huge opportunity for points. Last time when I did it for Budapest, I wasn't too on teams' schedules, and I'd probably react to it a bit too late. Like, say, for example, news comes out that a team is in fact going to an open LAN. Last time I'd be there like maybe 5-7 days late, and it wouldn't really like reflect itself in the predictions. So this time I was on it. I was cold calling teams. I'm like, are you guys going to this? So I could just find out what was going on. I was like piecing together the whole picture of the schedule because I wanted to ensure that it didn't jump around too much. Obviously, it still does jump around a huge amount, and that's always a bit annoying. And particularly when there's huge upsets, like I think the biggest one that threw everything awry was Heroic versus Ascend, when that was a very surprising loss. Yeah. And you had teams making interesting decisions, such as Liquid, when they were right on the cusp of failing the major, where they decided, you know what, we're just going to long it out and we're not going to play anything. And it reached the point where I ended up tracking flights to see if Bestia would end up making their next match. Ooh. It was really busy. Just tried to stay on top of everything to give the best picture possible. And we kind of got there in the end. It didn't go too wrong.
Depending on which team you are.
Yeah.
It went all right for me. So I was quite happy. I don't think I made as many mistakes this time. So it was while it was a loss of long hours and quite often up till the early hours, but it was good.
I was really sad to see, obviously, Alliance not making it to the major. I thought, but I will say though, on the Alliance kind of topic, it's the first time I've felt invested in a Swedish team in a way that kind of resembles how I was in the teens, like looking at Counter-Strike, watching the best and biggest events and the biggest stars who we all had like 3-4 teams from Sweden that would compete in these major tournaments. Alliance kind of brought back this what if moment for me when cheering for a team, and magically, like, can they win against Aurora? They managed to do it, and it's like, are they fucking doing it? Are they making it? Because they were obviously, I went to the Swedish Cup, which they won last year. And, they played good CS, and then they lost their star player, Poi. Yep. Recently brought in, Mail as a replacement. They've only played with him for 2 months.
He's good,
how crazy
man. Yeah, he's really good.
But he didn't really fit into the Meta Sports project they had. So it made big strides in a short amount of time.
He did a very good 2 months. But the Alliance Glory run was so fun to watch. It got me watching Esports Studio in Swedish. I didn't have a clue what was being said.
I was doing the same.
The raw emotion from the casters was one of the best casts I've ever watched. It was like Counter-Strike felt so fun again. And I do think that's a really good thing about the whole VRS system, where you're watching the most random games. You're getting to see new casters, new production teams, and all of these eyes, essentially globally now, on so many different tournaments and TOs is really good. It's going to give so many people opportunities, from casters to production staff. Yeah, it's a really great aspect. Like, I'm getting invested in Alliance. I'm watching Mail having an incredibly good run. And all of this is just great for kind of everyone because everything matters.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said this because I think his last episode, me and Devilwalk talked about like Roman putting on so many events like back to back to back. I was saying that like he's got a different sponsor for every event. Something's happening, right? It's a good business at this level that wasn't there before. Like these tier 2 ones were notoriously online. didn't have these LAN events, didn't have this kind of production and stuff. Different commentators I'm hearing and seeing. We mentioned about, is it Trotter Devilwalk, the American geezer?
Yeah.
He's like solo doing so many of these. He's pretty good. And then it's funny, right? Because I have nothing wrong with watching Kick, but I just need them to have an app, because if you give me Kick on an app, I just watched the Swedish thing like you were doing, Mischief, because there was no Kick app. So watching it in a browser on my phone was terrible. Like, it wasn't a good user experience. So
and
I just watched the
streams are like really bad.
So I just watched the Swedish thing and I was like, I'm the same as you. No bloody idea what they're saying. Complete bias, I'm sure, considering the levels of hype that were happening across it. But super entertaining anyway.
Don't we feel like if I get to jump in here, don't you feel like the whole like kind of ecosystem surrounding esports and CS is kind of healing because of this VRS situation? And we're getting away from this league system, and now we finally see how healthy it can be on multiple levels instead of only at the top. That's kind of what I'm feeling when I'm watching this, when I'm seeing all these tournaments, when there's obviously new players growing into the game on small and big kind of steps. We see PGL picking up, a big share of the market. We see all of this stuff happening around us, and it's so healthy for not only players, teams, organizations. It feels healthy for just the entire ecosystem seems to be in balance in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like before VRS, in terms of big lands, just focusing on Europe because that's all I really know, we probably only had about 5 big open lands per year. We probably now have that per month in the VRS era. I think this is the healthiest tier 2 has ever really been. This has come with good and bad. And I do think there's quite a lot to be said for the bad, but at least from a good perspective and the potential of what the scene can be, this is so healthy. And I'm sure other game developers are looking at this. They've seen what Valve have done with essentially no investment to revitalize the whole tier 2 scene. This must be really appealing to the likes of Riot, who obviously have their closed ecosystem, and CS is way healthier currently, at least.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? You're touching on something there, right, about like how this ecosystem is working, how Valve are not putting in this money for it. I can't name the person I spoke to, but I spoke to some of the people that were organizing some of these events, right? And they're saying they're not just like making the event, they're turning a profit. Like they are turning a profit from some of these events, especially if you're someone who owns the LAN center or owns the area, the studio space yourself, and you're putting it on at LAN. Because remember, they're not paying for people's flights. They're not paying for people's hotels. They're running the production. They're running the tournament. There's an appearance fee for it. But now they're bringing in sponsors. And the thing is, in the past, right, it didn't make sense to do this because no good teams would go. But like, look how many of us were watching some of these smaller events and the viewership was going up, which then helps them get more sponsors, get more prize money for it. Because obviously some of the prize money is pretty good now, right? If you look like the Star Ladder one's kind of a standout example because they have stakes, so that's like 100K, right? But some of the other ones, anywhere between 15 to 30 to 50 is in that range, right? And they're thriving because they're getting that money from sponsors. They're not having to put too much money in themselves. And then they're getting something off the top of that as well. I'm not saying all of them make profit, but for what I'm hearing right now, they're starting to find a way that this is something that can be like good business going forward and running so many of these. I wish I knew what Roman was doing, because Roman had like a HyperX ROM, then he had a radio channel, like I guess it's Portuguese radio, but that's kind of insane. Like whatever he's doing is golden. He's probably making more money now than he was when he was playing.
But I'm just looking at this and I look back to when I was a kid. We had a internet cafe here in Umeå called Spixel. That was a team.
Oh, bro, you had a team. That was the 1.6
It was a team that made a LAN, like an internet cafe in this city.
Did Wally
so
play
you could
for them
go
at some
there.
point?
They were playing official games from their times. And it was just so much fun. This like internet cafe days. And it used to be the same in, Stockholm with Inferno Online. They used to have local tournaments every like Friday and Saturday when they did like you could stay overnight to play at the LAN cafe and stuff. And that kind of simmered out and started dying once esports got a little bit more serious. and now it's kind of, I feel like it's growing back. Maybe we'll see, you know, like I don't know, let's take like an alliance internet cafe in a Swedish town, and maybe another Swedish town has another team's internet cafe, you know.
Yeah.
And we start to get this kind of local headquarters for teams. That would be so cool.
I'm just looking at it as well, right? Bullen was there, Wally was there, his brother Mini Wally was there as well. That's why I remember the Spixel thing from. So that was in Umeå as well. That's cool. There you go. I'm learning something.
I think.
Nice. So let's.
Sorry.
I wanted to ask you next, because obviously you said you're very focused on Europe, but it felt like, remember last time we spoke, you were saying Asia, it's kind of decided, like there's not much going to change here, you know, America's not going to. This time, everything was up in the air, right? Like everything was changing to the very last second. So how the hell did you manage all of that, especially with some of the controversy going on around different events at the same time across pretty much all regions?
Yeah, America's was very much a complex one. There was a situation where I think it must have been the Monday or the Tuesday where Liquid and MIBR were tied. And everyone's going, oh, what even happens in VRS if there's a tie? A tie can never really happen anyway because of the decimal points. But it was a very interesting situation where you've got Bestia on an absolute charge. You've got Gaiman, who are having a pretty good season, and you've got Passion UA, who pulled off probably nearly the best clutch of the year a couple of weeks before. All of these teams are on a charge. And you're like, it's looking like one of Liquid and MIBR might get jumped here. They're tied. Who's going to end up ahead? I'd previously done the math on this case, and it was basically because there were these two big Brazilian tournaments coming up. One of them was Fergie, and the other was Circuit X Mayhem. And when teams in your network play, it kind of pulls you upwards because everything gets recalculated, and it's like, oh, these teams are better. You beat them, you're better. So MIBR starts to rise. And then you're looking at Liquid and you're like, this really isn't looking good. And it was looking really bad coming into that final like Thursday. You had Odic still in it. They could jump Liquid. Gaming, Passion, and Bestia. But then Bestia had their situation where they had to fly from obviously Copenhagen to Riga to then play Urban Riga. And they came in, won their first game, but then they lost. And it put them on the same side of the bracket as Passion. And that caused obviously a bit of chaos because they're going to be absolutely knackered because they've been traveling across the whole world pretty much. Bestia, one of the teams that seemed to be playing everything. Obviously, had to try and make the major, but they played everything under the sun. They're coming to the end of their season absolutely knackered, and then we've got to play the hardest team in the tournament. And unfortunately, it didn't come up for them, and Liquid escaped by the skin of their teeth. I don't think they should have, but they made it barely.
Should we start with the Americas then, just because we're here and we're talking about it right now? Because,
but like even in this Liquid case, how much is it that they picked up losses that the system kind of recalibrates even the strength of Liquid as a team for this process? Like, how much does that actually impact it? If you think it like HyperX Roman Imperium Cup, you know, they picked up 4 losses and 3 wins, and they ended up in 4th place. So you see like a bunch of these teams, like, you know, obviously OG, Alliance, Famalcao, Gaming Gladiators picked up wins against them. How does that recalibrate Liquid in terms of the system, and does that impact it like quite a lot, even for their own chances?
It was kind of funny because what was happening during the day is you had all of these European tournaments going on. Obviously, Liquid, somewhat controversially in North America, they don't really play there. They really play among European teams. So when Europe was playing in the day, you'd see Liquid rise a little. And then obviously you'd have a tournaments kick off in South America. MIBR would start rising. So it'd flip-flop throughout the day. Liquid then ended up needing, if it was going to get really close, they needed certain teams to win because we're talking about fractions of a points there. It was like tiny gaps. And Liquid were essentially, I can't remember who it was exactly. I think they were wishing for FaZe to win almost, or maybe it was FaZe to lose, just so they'd stay ahead. This recalculation, it's not too big, and you're never going to see, say, like massive 40, 50-point gains. But when we're talking about less than 1 point, and it's why I couldn't really predict it accurately either, Liquid were probably just watching, praying. It was getting really close, and that's after swapping a whole region. And after going to the easier region, they end up making it in the final slot. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What is your opinion of that whole situation with Liquid from someone who's looking at the VRS? Like, we in Devilwalk touched on it when it first happened, and I would say that, like, yeah, you got away with it now. I'm hoping now Valve put a thing in that wherever you start in your season, you must finish in that region, and you can only change afterwards. Like, that would be the simplest solution in my mind, you know,
Well,
without getting too
there
deep.
should be at least a penalty. Like there should be a huge penalty for
Yeah.
doing something like that, because
You need to commit for a season. That's it, right? You don't in football. You don't start the season, then make a ton of changes as you're doing badly and go through it, right?
But it just makes the scene like weird in a way, where all of a sudden American players are worth 10 times more, no matter if they're worse. You know, like it becomes this weird balance of, oh, he's American, we can get him into the team and get them.
Or he's from an
American slot.
America's region. Yeah,
Yeah, like it just becomes weird.
also-
and I don't think that's what we should be playing around with.
And they can also go and grab some like lower tier EU players to help them be better and not really an America's core.
Yeah,
you know,
like pick up some points in EU with like some loan agreements, and then just
Exactly.
swap in your American players when the
play
time
your
is
10
right.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say there's two issues to it. One is obviously something you can't fix, but Liquid play in Europe. They played in European events. They played in European local lands. And they obviously play at the tier 1 level 2. European teams are always going to be worth more just because the scene is bigger. There's more tournaments. There's more teams. That's going to benefit the opponent network. It's going to benefit the bounty offered. You can't escape that. You can never really lock a team geographically to have to play in some region. Obviously, if you did do that, we're realistically looking at franchise leagues anyway. And that's kind of the whole opposite of what we're trying to approach.
True.
I think the thing that should be changed is this region swap. Obviously, when Liquid did it at the time, they're breaking no rules, so you can't really blame them for it.
It's just bad in our minds, you know.
I mean, I think everyone understood it's a moral gray zone to some extent.
I think you don't want to go something too strict necessarily, where you do start of a season, for example, because they might not even finish their like transfer window then. At the end of the day, this can be quite arbitrary. And you saw Liquid skip events too at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Where you don't really want to lock it into, this is your set date. If you haven't made a move by then, you're set. At the end of the day, Valve have the model, and Valve are known to quite like their data. So you could do something, because we have these priority regions where if you're tied, you're going to go to the higher priority region. In this case, it's EU. It's the stronger region. This makes sense. Maybe you could have a kind of timestamp where for all rankings, you don't want to necessarily just fix this for the major. You have it for a ranking. You take a 3-month snapshot from before. You look at all of the rosters that have played in all their matches, and you take the highest priority from it. Say, for example, Liquid, they obviously had an EU roster in their 3-month window. They also had an America's roster in their 3-month window. You choose the higher priority, which is Europe. So they're locked to that, and they know from a very tangible perspective, this is what we're going to be.
So with that though, right, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but say, for example, they play a lot more games in Americas and they plan this out themselves, they can still game the system, right? Or
I think
not,
it'd be a lot
because
harder to
to
game.
Okay, but would it be simpler, right, if Valve just say, like, wherever you started the season, so your start of the season, you started as a European team because you had a European core or an America's core, whatever, that is where you must end. No changes you have.
There is obvious issues with that. You know, there is issues where, you know, players.
But then we have an actual transfer season, no? That's what I'm thinking. That's where my brain's at.
Yeah, but you can't like I understand sometimes you gotta swap players, and sometimes you don't wanna limit that to an extent where it's impossible to come back from it. Like, let's say, I don't know, let's just say, you know, Liquid with this team now, all of a sudden there's like a injury in the wrist for 2 players. They need rest for 3 months, and they need to bring in stand-ins, and all of a sudden they're locked in the region, and it punishes them for having injuries that are unforeseen, as an example, comparably to.
But I'm not saying they have to then pick the players from the same region. You can pick whichever players you want. You can change your players, but you started the season with Europe, and you have to be playing within that European region. I'm just saying they can't swap to Americas afterwards until the next season starts.
Well, what would happen in the case of a whole organization dropping a team and picking up another team for another region? Are they then locked to that region? That's also a complication, right?
No, because you just follow the players. It's not an organization thing, right? If I'm right, Mischief?
Yeah, I just think I somewhat do agree with Devil, where you want to have some flexibility, because you kind of want to catch all. You don't want to have, say, a set date, because at the end of the day, there's more than a major. We've obviously got ENC coming up, or EWC even, which is going to be massive for organizations. And say, for example, you had a set date where your team is going to be this region on XYZ date. What if someone like 100 Thieves Part 2 came in with a brand new roster? What region are they going to be if it's after the roster lock?
Yeah, I think that's a bit too punishing and a bit maybe too strict. We're still in
I like simple strict.
we want transfer seasons. We have transfer seasons. It's never like anyone who does business in the middle of the season, they're already punishing themselves by doing so. Like, no matter how you want to turn it, you don't want to punish them more if they have some chaotic things happening in the team. But I do think there should be a punishment in terms of either like the gain of points, or the fact that they are locked for at least a subset of a time to a roster league. I did like your kind of thought on it, Mischief, that the priority of the last 3 months made sense to me, where they're kind of locked. Even if you go and pick up a America squad, if they play past the amount of matches in that 3-month period, then they can do that switch. Then it doesn't become as calculative and snappy as decision making has been in this case with Liquid, where they make one transfer, a swap deal with another organization, and therefore they make the major. I mean, everyone can see that this was kind of part of their plan. They didn't just say, okay, Malves is going to be the best, player for us. Maybe they did, but there was an extra incentive in making that deal happen.
I'm sure it was a very key part of their decision making. It did seem from the Liquid side, they could only do wrong in terms of results, pretty much, with a few silver linings now and again. And after all of this, they still managed to make the major, which is maybe not representative of how well they're playing. Or deserve.
Are they the most hate-watched team in all Americas right now?
In all Americas, outside Falcons exist.
Well, I'd say in the major race, Sinners were very much hate-watching FaZe.
Yeah. Looking also, we got a quote here. We'll bring this up. It's from Marsborn's GM, and it says, "Why spend time, money, resources building in a region you believe in when you can just grab a spot right before cutoff as well?" Right, that's the kicker. But did they have a chance? Like, was that a team that had a chance? Is that why he was mentioning it?
Yes,
because they're 19th overall when the rankings have closed now for this major cutoff. Were they in contention?
Yeah, if they'd had a better Circuit X, they could have made it. And kind of going off what Kashmir said as well, I wouldn't even say the whole Liquid issue was exclusively that they swapped a region. You don't want a core of players, say if they're split down the middle, they're like part EU, part Americas. You don't want to lock them in for life, that this core is always going to be EU forever because they picked it 4 years ago. I think the bigger issue with Liquid wasn't necessarily that they swapped. I mean, this is still an issue that they did it so late. It was more that suddenly, essentially, an America spot evaporated. Yeah. Where if you were a team like Marsborn the fight for the 10th spot before Liquid announced their change.
They've obviously
was
planned
so-
to fight for that.
Yeah, it was a crazy fight. You had about 9 teams, all with an equal chance of making the major. Liquid came in, they all dropped to 2%. The likes of Fluxo, Marsborn, Red Canids, they all suddenly went from 20%, all equal pretty much, because all of these teams had a shot, to nothing, because Liquid basically had a baked-in slot. And I think that was the kind of issue where it was just so sudden, it just evaporated for everyone.
And also, like, I like a lot of the players on Liquid. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be at the major, but I would have preferred within this major cycle, when we're looking at Cologne, I would have preferred to have a Bestia or a Passion as one of the 2 teams that went through over them, you know, because it was a team that worked hard for it. Because Passion, they changed players, but they were always playing the Americas anyway, so nothing changed for them. And Bestia obviously came up as a little bit of an exciting one to try and make some magic happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just, my issue is with it is I could name multiple teams that I think would 100% deserve the major slot more than Liquid. I think I can name probably 20 teams above them in a list. And that's the problem for me, where a team that has kind of been riding on a points wave from the past and a lot of invites from the past has gotten into a tournament which they haven't played themselves into. That's the issue I take on it. I want, you know, and I know how important it is for some of these players who've never been to a major, never, you know, experienced it, or has been fighting their entire careers to be there for something. If I was in that position, that would be devastating for me as a player. It would crush my motivation for essentially the rest of this season, just by this fact happening. Like, imagining, you know, you're in a team meeting and you're saying, we have a 20% chance of making the major if we play our cards right. We fight for that. We practice every day. We spend 12 hours a day fighting on the server, theorizing how to play Counter-Strike better, and then snap, it's gone. But not your fault. That's the issue I take with the whole thing.
Yeah. I think that's enough on the Americas, though. I think we've covered. Is there anything else worth mentioning on the Americas, Mischief?
I don't think so, no.
No? Okay, we're good. So let's go, before we get to Europe, to Asia.
Yeah.
Because Asia became interesting out of nowhere, out of craziness, out of Forfeit, defaults, everything else going their way.
I have no idea what happened in Asia. I really want this recap.
Oh, so the crazy thing is, right, obviously, I'm on my Chinese social media, and like even some of the Chinese fans were turning on the Chinese teams in like terms of not agreeing with how this went down and what actually happened and how some of the behind the scenes things happened. But like, if I'm right in saying Semper Fi had a good chance of making it potentially.
Yeah. It was, I think 40% going into the weekend.
So 40% chance for them. And obviously, they're a team where they've got 2 Europeans, Shady and Keen, in there alongside the Aussies at the same time. Obviously, we know Ben the Legend very well. But their chances basically got ripped away from them, right? Because of all of this stuff.
Yeah. Like I can't remember if it was 5th, 6th, I think they went out in, I always get the 2 confused between POB and Gangqui. I think they were in Gangqui. They wouldn't have made it anyway, that placing. But it's going to leave you a very sour taste in the mouth with what actually did end up happening in Pinnacle of Battle, where it's quite awkward what happened there, where you have a team ending up winning the tournament, and kind of the forfeits were somewhat justified, but they ended up winning the tournament and a huge amount of VRS without playing, which isn't great, to say the least.
And who benefited from this the most?
I mean, Lynn Vision, because they ended up making a major.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Lynn Vision got, how many points do they get for a default in a grand final, for example, right? Because Tyler said they forfeited due to health reasons, right? I think that was what was put out there.
I mean, it did sound, I forget who it was, but it did sound like one of their players was having pretty bad health issues. And while you can't really say for an individual match how many points they're going to have gotten, because just how points work and aren't really linear either, they gained a huge amount, and it ended
They
up
gained
securing
161 VRS points and 38 placements in this tournament.
Yeah, there you go. Like a huge amount.
Oh, that's wild, isn't it? That's actually
Yeah.
wild. And like there was, but can you explain it to us? Because obviously this is definitely an event I wasn't following at all. So Tai Lu and Lynn Vision were playing in 2 tournaments at once, or was it just Tai Lu?
It was Tai Lu.
Yeah,
The
Tai
way
Lu.
it all
So
happened,
Lynn Vision only won their group stage, group. Then in the upper bracket round, they got a default win against Rare Atom. In the upper final, they got a default win against Tai Lu. Then Tai Lu played the consolidation final, won against Change the Game, then went on to the grand final and did a default win for Lynn Vision again.
Would they have made the major if they didn't get that default win?
It depends with how it goes. But I think a few things have been said on this, and there's probably a few important things to raise. So Udkud, who you guys know,
oh yes,
anyone doesn't watching this, he's like a VRS genius who has probably explained it better than any human ever could, and far better than Valve ever had. And that, yeah, he's probably a good reason we still have VRS, because people actually understand it.
You guys keep talking, by the way. I'm just quickly going to go deal with the baby. I will try to catch up in a sec.
Uknud has said some absolutely great things in the situation, and I'm somewhat confused myself on Twitter when I commented on it. But he did raise a really good point that there's no way at all you should be playing 2 LANs at once. Because 1, it's never going to go well, and 2, it kind of leads to 3 points kind of existing where one team's going to benefit because they're getting forfeit wins, and if you're playing in both, you end up double dipping. We kind of saw the same as well with FaZe. Playing as well at PGL and didn't go too well, but it could have
barely
gone well.
Played at PGL.
Yeah, but teams shouldn't really be doing this, and I 100% agree with what Uknud said. I think the only potential issue in this case is some people were saying, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but they were saying that there might have been some malicious actions where teams are trying to benefit other teams. Because so many teams now have LAN wins, if one of these events, so POB, was actually online, the exact same result happens, where forfeits are getting teams to the major. So while I think we should really not be having LANs clashing at all,
There we see Banks and the baby walking past.
I think there does need to be maybe something further than just not LANs at all. So Razara, who you may know, raised a really good point, that you can't have any perfect system. A system can't be governed by numbers and models alone. You've got to have a human factor. There may have been some awkward ruleness at POB with what happened with Rare Atom, where they came to the event after not fully, I think from what I'm aware, they just didn't know the time fully because it was changed. And the ruling there was that they'd either forfeit the veto or forfeit the first map. Both ended up happening. They disagreed with it. And as an admin background, there's the golden adminning rule where admin discretion is final. So there isn't really a sticking to the rulebook in that case, because whatever the admin say goes. I don't know what their rulebook is, so I'm not trying to say that they didn't follow it. But we're going to have, and we do have, a huge amount of these grey area issues in VRS. And Valve kind of need to have a body to handle this, because if they don't, who does?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, but it's also, for me, like, I don't think Valve would ever, assign a body to the side. I think that's kind of, they kind of leave it survival of the fittest. You decide, and if that body misbehaves, they come in and shut it all down.
But
that's kind of how they work.
Because, like, I've obviously had to follow a lot of these LANs over the past 4 months now that we've all seen pop up for this major race. And we see that Valve have obviously introduced their rules, and they've got the tournament operation requirements, also known as the tour, and events are meant to follow it, and a lot of events do. But at the same time, we also see a lot of events not follow it at all. Back in 2025, obviously, it was a very harsh change, and you had TOs having to adapt, and they got a lot of exceptions. This is kind of fine, of course, because you need to have that gradual change. But now we're into 2026. Events don't get exceptions anymore. They don't meet the tour, but there's no punishment at all. Should we be having this?
Yeah.
I know you say that Valve like their hands-off approach, and this is really what they have had.
It's
But-
just the history of
Yeah.
Valve just tells me by gut feeling that they're either, they work either by collecting data for long periods of time and then kind of enacting their, judicial system in some way. We've seen it with, gambling sites, cheaters. The way just VAC actually works is gathering a lot of data, and when they have the final nail in the coffin, that's when they make their say, right? They don't speak during this period of time. They just see how everyone behaves in the system, and I kind of feel that that's just how it's going to be with Valve, because it's a complicated question. Yes, you need a human touch, but I don't know what that would look like for Valve.
Yeah. I mean, I think they probably did miss a bit of a trick when Messioso was out of the job, not being able to get him to manage the whole system. And I do agree that Valve, at the end of the day, they kind of make their decisions based on data. And I think it is very unlikely that they will step in. But if we have all of these events, which are meant to be held to a rule book, and a lot of these tier 2 open events have huge ramifications for the major, if the rules aren't being followed, what's the point in having the rules? It's essentially a wild west of tier 2 out there.
Yeah, but then it probably will be something, if they gather enough data that a specific tournament organizer isn't following the rule, I'd probably be more, it's more likely they just come in and ban that specific tournament organizers from, touching their game, rather than applying, a human touch and looking after each and every segment of, because I mean, even if they did that, there's a huge amount of resources that Valve needs to put into just monitoring every single subset of events, especially now with the VRS. Like, there's so many tournaments, right? Like, how it's almost impossible to monitor it all. I don't even know how you have done it with the VRS race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Magic
yeah.
skills. Are you still on Asia?
We are talking a little bit about Asia, which led into a conversation about, is everyone following the VRS rules? Is there something that maybe is not good-hearted with these default wins? And should Valve step in and actually have a guiding hand into how everything actually turns out, like having a regulatory body? Is that
Good
how
luck.
do you say it?
Good luck with that.
That's
Good luck.
it's essentially what I.
It's a dream world. That's the dream
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
I like what you're saying. It makes sense what you're saying, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be very hard.
I would agree.
I guess the positive I would say in the Asia region from my side is that all of the teams are only starting in stage 1. So it's not like some crazy thing. Like, it sucks for the teams underneath. But I mean, it's not like someone benefiting jumping to stage 2 over some of this BS that went down, like that guaranteed Ty Lue stage 2 spot, for example. That helps significantly in with it. But there was also a topic you were talking about, Mischief, around how the regions work right now for Asia and Oceania. We lump this together, but it's not close. Like, it's not as close as people think. And they're not playing each other as many times.
How long is a flight, like, let's say Sydney to
Let's Google it. Find out.
Probably like
Sydney, Beijing, maybe, I don't know.
Shanghai, mate.
Most
Shanghai.
of their tournaments are Shanghai, yeah.
Shanghai.
Looking to be about 10 hours non-stop.
So it's like
That's
us
like
going
me
to
going
Asia.
to China. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my flight time. That's insane.
Yeah. And that's what you got to compete in under VRS if you're an Oceania team.
Okay.
And like play internet tournaments in the same region. Online tournaments, nice.
So really, is there a fourth region?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's almost 5 because it's not like we see much interaction between North and South America either.
But it's easier if they wanted to, right? In terms of to travel to some of the Brazilian events.
Yeah, we saw Marsbon do exactly that too.
You see? So I understand in what you're saying. Maybe we could split even Americas up. But I would just say, at least when I look at Americas, the Brazilians could travel to America. Obviously, it's a bit harder for them, visas. The Americans don't need visas to go to South America, right? As far as I understand it, I could be wrong. Someone can point it out in the comments. But the opportunity is still there. Like, it is possible. Where if you're telling me a 10-hour flight, and like, let's look at the teams in the Asia region. So Mongols, Tyloo, Lynn Vision, all got probably a good amount of money. FlyQuest, they've got good backing. Thunder Down Under, probably not. Huns, okay-ish, because obviously they're from Mongolia. Next Void, probably not too good funding. Chinggis Warriors, probably not too good funding. Rare Atom, okay. So the opportunity to go to these events and take that kind of traveling, plus the hotels, plus whatever entry fees, that's also going to be a big problem.
Yeah, the region, to put it simply, is too big.
Yeah.
Where realistically, you look at a lot of the teams in Europe are essentially playing in their own backyard to make the major. This isn't a bad thing at all, because you shouldn't be required to shell out thousands upon thousands of pounds. Well, not pounds, but whatever your local currency is.
Good money, mate.
Yeah. You shouldn't be having to do all of this, like huge amount of traveling across the world to just even have the opportunity to compete. Thunder Down Under have obviously made it somewhat controversially when you look at Twitter from just playing Australian teams. Not really, though. They're playing all the teams that are within. They're saying they've played no good teams and no good teams in Asia, but at the same time,
said that?
I've seen it on Twitter a fair amount of times. I don't agree with it, but they're playing the only teams that are within a 10-hour range of them, pretty much. Yeah. They ended up doing the domestic double. I think they very much deserve to be there. It's just a case of, like, how else are they meant to compete? Like, should they be required to go to Asia? I think there's some argument to be made. I think I've seen it mentioned a few times where maybe for Asia, bring back the RMR for stage 1. Because at least in that case, everyone has known stakes. They're going to a tournament to compete directly against the other Asian teams. But I think, realistically, you could break it down into sub-regions. Australia is incredibly distinct when you look at it on essentially a network map of a VRS. They're incredibly individual. They only play among each other. Sure, come major race, you see the likes of FlyQuest and Semperfi going over to China. But they don't do this frequently. It's a case of the regions rarely interact. Why should they be lumped together for qualifying?
So essentially, what you're thinking about is in the sub-region kind of comment. That's what I'm snipping up. Like, you have a main kind of Asia region, and then the sub-regions would get a slot maybe, and the main region have the majority of the slots. Is that kind of what you're thinking it would look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you could do it. You could split it all up into sub-regions. So I forget what it was exactly when Blast had it with their sub-regions, but you have, like, say, China, for example. You could have Mongolia, you have Oceania. You could have a guaranteed slot for a sub-region if you want as well. But that did kind of exist with Blast, and that led to a bit of controversy where that one extra slot went to the stronger region. I think there's a few ways to do it, and the RMR could be one. But on its own, VRS qualification to Asia as a whole, it's just way too wide a region where you go so far to one side to the other. We're looking at a 10-hour flight for, like, realistically, the strongest teams in Asia, with the exception of Mongols, are the Chinese teams and the Australian teams. They're 10 hours apart. Like, it's not like you see multitudes of European teams usually going to the west coast of America to play in the likes of Nostalgia Land. You don't see that. Why should it be required in Asia?
So how far can someone quickly check Devilwalk, Mongolia to Shanghai? Because that's also far, right? Because we've got the Mongolian teams in there as well. We have to factor them in.
I don't know any cities in Mongolia. I'll be
Ulaanbaatar.
Ulaanbaatar.
Looks like it's a 4-hour flight.
4-hour flight. So that's more like a European style flight, more into America flight. That's more reasonable. Okay, so I can take that as fine. So what we would want then is basically Mongolian, Singapore, Chinese, that put one side, and then Oceania put on the other. But then the other problem, so the Mongols are the sole reason that Asia's doing well, right? So that means Oceania don't get any of them points, right? So that stays on the Asia side. And then you only give one slot to an Oceania team?
I think you could give two. I think Australia has proved itself in the majors where, typically they get to the major, everyone puts them as their 0-3 slot. They never end up going 0-3. But we've had...
They went 3-0 last time, didn't they? FlyQuest.
I think Australia does have some merit to 2 slots. I mean, you could have it like the same with other slots where they get balanced. You have a minimum amount. If they do well at the major, they get more. You can have different ways to distribute it. You could have, like, say, for example, we're going to see Asian teams compete among each other where we have the tier 1 events with VRS Asia rankings. Maybe you divvy it up through the year. I mean, it depends if Valve even consider splitting up Asia or they're just going to leave it as is. But I think the current state isn't good. Probably do something else.
Yeah, definitely. I'm agreeing with you from what you're saying because that distance, that travel doesn't put them in the same region. And the fact they're not playing against each other is crazy as well. Like it doesn't make sense. And they're so heavily affected by all of it. So leave Asia together and then put Oceania on the side. I'm not give them 2 spots for now, sure, with how it's working out because there's 4 spots total. That does make it fairer with how it works out. But then you'll probably see a bunch of Mongolian lands pop up as well. Are there some VRS Mongolian small lands?
Yeah, I mean, we saw
there was a
MPS
bunch of them last
spring.
season, even.
There was a lot more before, yeah.
Was it Extreme Land or something like that?
No, that was China.
The main one was Mesa for Mongolia.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting case. Like, as soon as you start splitting up a region, there's always going to be trying to draw lines, paint it. We obviously see cases like Far East Russia as well, because they're currently grouped into Europe, and that's quite a very long distance, really. It's just
they can't even ping good. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's so far away. It's just that realistically, like say for example, come next major, we see more Chinese lands. We saw more Mongolian lands. They're going to be able to compete online as well because of a ping. And say theoretically as well, these Chinese lands could be limited to only Chinese attendees too. Even if it's just 1 spot for Oceania, it's better than a theoretical 0 that they get if they're fully locked out and they don't even have the ability to compete.
Is that what's happening?
Not yet, but there's nothing to safeguard that from happening either. Because at the end of the day,
you just give the spots to whoever sign up or whoever you say sign ups first, and it could just all be the Chinese teams, right?
Yeah, but there is some complexity to that.
Okay.
Where we have seen this recently happen with Relog, and we're now seeing it pop up. Just to quickly jump to Europe, but just to give context.
Oh, that's good.
We're seeing it pop up with other TOs too, where they have these tier 2 open events. So you sign up as a team, and typically it's first come, first served. So if you're the first team to sign up, you're guaranteed a slot. We saw a new interpretation of it where Relog, they were going to take the top 12 ranked teams. So we're going to see this again with other TOs as well, where they take the top amount of ranked teams. This kind of derails a lot because this is essentially invites without the rules of invites, where say, for example, I wanted to host a tier 1 event and I don't have time to follow the tier 1 rules, or I don't follow the regional assignment as well. I could just be like, okay, I'm hosting a tier 2 event in 2 months' time. I'm going to seed the top 16 teams into it. And by sheer coincidence, the top 16 teams sign up. We can see kind of other manipulation as well with other events where you just have signups can very much be limited to demographics, where you could see Australia locked out from this. They haven't been yet, but there is not really much safeguarding to prevent it. And it would just lead to a pretty fast downward spiral of if you're getting no opportunities as a region, where do you go from here?
Was there any Asian teams at the Australian events though?
Yeah.
Is it like, because we're saying locked out of the Chinese events, it works both ways?
we had no Asian teams there, but there's not a theoretical lock. But realistically, these events were kind of off the back of Mav, where if Australia didn't really have him, the only way you can realistically compete is kind of an arms race almost, where say if the Chinese TOs start building up more events, more prize pool, the only way over such a distance anyway is Australia ramping it up too. Can they? It's a bit of a harder ecosystem.
Yeah, economy's not quite the same.
But are we saying like even for this like first come first serve rule, that isn't necessarily a great system either. Obviously it becomes just everyone being on tune online, rumor spreading, you need to sign up to this when we open the queue kind of thing.
Something's come up with this for Asia actually recently. So I was speaking to Gomez in the major race, and one of the Mongolian TOs, they ended up announcing their event on GitHub. And because it's a LAN event, it's going to be worth a lot of points. All Valve require you to do is to announce your event in good time. And bear in mind, the time is really short. It's only 2 weeks. And the announcement has to be either uneditable, Twitter. Well, basically uneditable Twitter.
For a period of time.
Yeah. Or it has to have a changelog. For example, GitHub. This tournament, so theoretically, you can have tournaments announced on GitHub in the background pretty much. Impossible to see, that no one really knows about, but this is meeting the rules. Practically meeting it, nowhere near. Of course it's not. But in accordance with Valve, this meets the rules. And that is the issue where first come, first served is. Because is that meeting
people
it?
Are like,
not really.
They're obviously talking to the teams that they want to sign up for this event to sign up without that, being confirmed. But otherwise, why would people know about it? Or why would people sign up to it if it's announced on GitHub? Like, no one is there.
I do really agree with you, though, where the issue with first come, first serve is if you're a team or a GM, you basically have to be scouring the internet permanently so you can get to the events. I think ideally, Valve, as we discussed, they're never going to do it. But the issue with these ranked events, particularly the open LANs, they're worth so much, but on HLTV, they only come up a week, if not days before. Liquipedia has them sometimes, but again, it doesn't have all of them. Kind of do need a central repository of events that will be ranked. Because if you're a team...
Is the list that Banks sent me, is that from you, Finn? What was the site for the tier 2 events upcoming that you sent me a while back?
I saw that was posted by the Finnish guy.
Oh, is that the cslans.com?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a really good source of data. But at the end of the day, it's again a case of it didn't actually have everything either, and something could be announced under wraps. And for a lot of these events too, I think it had X21 on there, for example, and this didn't end up becoming ranked either. This kind of is down to HLTV/Valve's decision at the end of the day. If you're a team that's trying to plan your calendar, you have to know when the events are going to be, if they're going to be ranked, if they're going to be of value. There kind of needs to be a collective source of this, so teams can actually make these incredibly impactful decisions which could decide your major, or they could ruin your major. Currently, there's not really a way to do so, and I think this is a pretty big issue in the VRS because it's a confusing system. If you can't even plan your calendar around it, what are you going to do?
So we need a service to come in where everyone essentially announces their LANs on a LAN website, and you register through that. So if someone wants to take up that service, push every TO to join up.
Good luck again.
Yeah. But the issue there again is that for a lot of these LANs, you don't know if they will be ranked till realistically a week before when they're added to HLTV. If you're a team, how much, particularly if you're an organization which has less funds, how much can you gamble on an event that might not end up ranked? Because these cost a lot, and you're making a pretty big gamble if it's a new TO, which we are seeing a huge amount of new TOs. You don't know if they're ranked till sometimes 3 days before. This is a very big
Like
benefit
do
to.
the TOs themselves don't even know?
Theoretically, no, because they know that they're meeting the tour. They might have got that wrong, but you only find out if it's ranked essentially till HLTV has gone through it. And
if they're going to put it on the website, right?
Yeah, and it will come up if it's ranked or not. But you say, for example, you could have shelved out. I think Fnatic ended up saying, for example, we spent something like 20 grand when they went to Philadelphia for the Budapest major. Theoretically, as an organization, you could end up shelving out 20 grand, you land, you check HLTV, event isn't ranked. I think the ranking decision for events needs to be made much further in advance so teams know what they're getting into.
And is there an over-reliance on HLTV?
Yeah,
I praise HLTV so much, right? But they are, I don't know, by the way, we'd have to speak to Prof and Striker, but I don't know if they're paid to do this or if they're just doing it off the good of their hearts like they've done for many things in what HLTV does, demos, history of our game. I'm never going to fault any of that on the business side, but I will say that them having to do all this and some events they can't cover for the reasons they've said, right? Like the staffing and how it works. It obviously now starts to hurt the ecosystem in some ways. And maybe we need to find a better way of doing it, or they need some extra resource if we want to cover these things for these lower down events, because we can't live in a world where this is like the go-to, where if it's on HLTV, it's included. If it's not, it's not included, because we don't want these situations where smaller orgs eat the price of just being unlucky with the event they went to where it doesn't get classified.
I can't remember if it was spoken about on HLTV Confirmed or somewhere else. And this was quite a long time ago, and I hope it's changed. But at the time, it was mentioned that HLTV aren't getting any payment at all from Valve. If that hasn't changed,
that's still the case.
Yeah, if it hasn't changed, it's ridiculous. They really should be getting some funding and resources to keep their coverage. Like, you look at what HLTV covers now compared to what it was before, like 2024 and earlier, it's night and day. They're covering so much more, and they still get a huge amount of flack for it. At the end of the day,
is unfair.
I think there's some kind of grey area, and there's some small things I'd probably change about the coverage process. But I remember Epic LAN, we always find out quite late if we're getting coverage. And one time I was like, I'm going to look through all these past events. I'm sure we're getting hard done by. Nope, not at all. HLTV coverage is very fair. It's a bit murky and maybe communication could be improved, but they do a really fair, good job. And I'd never say at all they're slighting a TO. I think at the end of the day,
don't they sometimes even like hand write in results and stats and like try to feed their kind of system where they have to kind of download demos and feed their system from different TOs, because it's so hard to kind of get it automatically for them?
We've had many an issue at Epic LAN where either our demos break, our logs end up sending from 8 different IPs, our VOD breaks, and we're always, at least for us, and we mess up quite a lot, we're always very like considering of it. And at the end of the day, there's no reason that they should have to cover our events. And while we're eligible to be ranked, it shouldn't really be them making the decision on if we are or aren't. I think Valve should be collecting this data, and at the end of the day, that's a pretty popular consensus that they should be doing it. All HLTV, I say all, but all HLTV are doing is they receive a log address of the server, and this conveys a huge amount of stats. And for HLTV, this is, of course, really important, as they have rating 3.0, they've got match pages, they collect players' date of birth, they track huge amounts of history. Yeah. And for HLTV, you have to do a big amount of work. And if anyone was to try and replicate that, like the whole HLTV package, it'd be impossible. All VRS needs is a roster, their countries, their names, and the result of a match. And if it was a forfeit, it's a huge amount less data. And say, for example, when you make it to, I forget, is it top 20? Like when you make it above 25k Prem Elo, you put your name into the game. But they
on the
theoretically, theoretically, they could collect a lot of this data. Like, say, for example, the player's name, the country they want to represent, and they could collect the results themselves. Like, say, for example, in Dota, I've never played Dota, so I don't know it exactly, but Dota has the API system where you put in like the event code ID and will track all the stats for that event. When you're hosting a tournament, that for under the Valve rules, you have to apply for a tournament license. When you fill out that form to do it, they could return, say, a code or a log address that you're going to send the data to, and Valve collate it themselves. I don't really think HLTV should have this, they shouldn't have to have this responsibility. They do it really well, and obviously we get a huge amount of VRS data from them, and it's the only way it could work currently. But Valve, as the data company, as we spoke about, it's their ranking system. It's not HLTV's. It should be their responsibility.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking with this form thing, like, and the issue of finding these ranked, shouldn't this be just a service on like a, let's say, cs2.com website, upcoming lands, people actually apply on that website. We see
on the actual official Counter-Strike website.
Yeah, and we see pending lands, waiting for approval and all of this, which ones have been accepted and approved for rank.
Yeah.
There should be a process that should be public information to a very big extent, which essentially with Valve's, what were they? One of the most profitable companies in the world. If not, I think they were #1 profitable company per employee in the entire world. They should have the resources for something like that and just tell people, this is where you fill out the form. It's applied, pending, and you can view all of this publicly.
Yeah, everything you said, 100% agree with. This is exactly what we need, particularly what you said with the pending and the approval stage. Theoretically, there is no way at all if your event is approved. Say, for example, you set up your event, you announce everything 3 months ago. This is well before the deadline. He could come to the week before when HLTV review it, because at the end of the day, HLTV aren't reviewing VRS anyway. They're just reviewing their own coverage. They might suddenly go, oh, wait a minute, our bad guys, but you messed this up 3 months ago. There's no time machine. You can't go turn it back. No one's reviewing it before. What can you do? And in a lot of cases, this ends up getting grabbed by Messioso on Twitter, who will mention it in advance. And he kind of essentially manages VRS in his spare time. But it shouldn't really be Messioso doing this. It really should be Valve. If they don't have the resources to be able to do this, when, as you said, they're the most profitable company per employee, what's happening?
Yeah. And another thing we were talking about, right? So I was grabbing the baby and making sure he's burping and stuff in between. It's an interesting thing for me that now general managers and managers in general, that's funny general managers and managers, but they are separate entities. There's a manager of a team, there's a general manager, GM for the team. They are now more valuable. They actually have a lot more work to do because of all this, right? And they need to have someone that can understand it all, because there's so many little details, which is probably why Messioso's, how do you rate Messioso's choice of what he did for the events for 100 Thieves and stuff, etc., before we get into Europe?
It's so funny to me, because we've talked a lot about this, and the 100 Thieves project looks really cool. They've got great players. Watching Poi is amazing. I really, really, really like Poi. And Messioso was attending all of these events. He had a very good big picture plan, and he'd just be doing this stuff. And it's kind of how the VRS works. If you assemble a team of good pieces and you attend the right events, you'll rise very quickly. And both me and Messioso know the tricks in VRS and what you've got to pull. And he did tell me before I went on this, he's like, don't reveal any trade secrets at all. And when he was doing this run, it's like, if you ever seen The Life of Brian, where it's like, he's the Messiah, and I'm not the Messiah. Messioso was telling me, he's like, everyone's praising me so much, and I'm just doing the normal basic stuff. And it was really funny. I don't want to take it away from anything he does, because obviously he has really good knowledge of a VRS. And when he was on Complexity, so some of the actual trade secrets, he was doing really well with some of the niche stuff, particularly with Anchor. I probably won't touch on that too much more. But he has a very good understanding of VRS, and I'm sure 100 Thieves will go very far because of it. Some of his big picture plans of the events he's trying to attend, prioritize, and you have people going, oh, why aren't you going for the major? There's more to CS in a 4-month window. I think they're going to do a really good project, and I'm sure he's going to pull out a lot more tricks out of the bag. But
so he's playing the long-term game with it, right? Of understanding what smaller events to go to, because people were like, "Why would you enter the European qualifier for Astana?" Obviously, they end up third in it, right? But I mean,
close.
Yeah, very, very close. But I would
Yeah.
say, looking at it for them, this run they had, okay, some of the land results could have been a bit better, but they jumped up from no VRS to 42 on just on their first run of events. That's pretty solid. It's better than a lot of teams do.
Yeah. And while it hasn't kicked in yet, because we've only seen, I think for the start of 2027, we're going to see events actually start with wildcard slots. They probably won't use them anyway. But 100 Thieves with really good pieces, also barely in it, is because I think it's like November, they slotted into 12th. I think it was Agile. But their roster had wildcard eligibility. So it would allow them to go to any of these tournaments where it was very carefully planned, where if the opportunity arose, they'd be able to slot in. And they're probably one of the organizations you'd want to use it on. In the end,
is that because of the players they picked?
Yeah, so they had three players who were in, at one point in time, they had at least 3 players who were in a top 12 list. Some of them were the European list, but they did make the top 12. And it was a very well-constructed team where it gave 100 Thieves a lot of opportunities, which is really good for them. And we've seen, essentially kind of like 12 months after Messioso clocked it on, we've seen teams now understand that lands are way more important. And then kind of because everyone's doing it, it cancels everyone out. So they're kind of less important at the same time. But I'm sure we're going to see teams, like at the end of the day, in this major run, while we saw teams catch on more with land wins, there's still a lot of inoptimal decision-making from teams. And also at the event level, we see inoptimal formats and structure. And I'm sure we're going to see this improve on over time. Yeah. But from a Valve perspective, this also does make it hard to review the VRS, because if people aren't making optimal decisions, how can you truly judge what the good sides and the bad sides of the system are? But I think we will see a lot of improvement from teams. Like, say, for example, from what happened at Budapest.
What would that be? Like, how would it look like? Would it be more, less maybe just going to every single event kind of deal for these teams, where they like more specifically maybe have a longer practice before their season actually starts and go to lands more surgically, like for example 100 Thieves, who've kind of picked this one and they go and then go quiet for a little bit and go to another one. It seems very thought out.
I don't want to give too much away, because that's where the money is. But you're pretty much hitting it right on the nose there. I will say from a tournament perspective, because it's probably where we've seen the most variety and change. So say Budapest last time, we had a lot of teams right in the major race. They ended up going to ECL, and the way that ECL is structured is it's basically a minefield for points, where for pretty much most of the teams attend, it's a death trap, where you might end up with a clash. You're going to see some losses to big teams. There's not really many teams of value there either, and it just created your season. I looked at it, and I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but it's something like there's a 75% reduction in something like top 40 EU teams that now attend the ECL Cups before the major. It just does ruin your season. And I think like it's important that, not even important, but structures like that may have to change, because the ESEA ladder system pre-VRS, amazing, kind of was an ESL monopoly on everything, but it was really good. And they are obviously in a pretty hard situation where they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, but they probably will have to change their structure.
I mean, the ESEA ladder was never really good from a playing perspective.
Yeah, I can imagine, but as a viewer, it was fun.
Hell as a player. Not only because HLTV ranks were so important to get invites to better tournaments, etc., and you were stuck playing, you couldn't reschedule, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just assuming that, teams have to kind of build their VRS structure in a way where they attend the tournament, think about when the decay actually starts hitting in, and then kind of refreshing your points as the season goes. And then if they need to make a really big run for something, they have something, planned for, okay, we didn't hit the mark, but we're still not decaying that much, and then just kind of go for a last minute ditch attempt. That's kind of how I see maybe teams would end up doing in the future.
I'd say quite a few teams they kind of got hit by essentially just how it played out. Where, say, for example, you went to a LAN at the beginning of February, and you rock up some decent LAN wins. Come the major, they're going to be decayed to kind of like 0.8. And your decision for a last-ditch effort there is you can pay a lot of money to go to a LAN. All you're replenishing is 0.2 of a LAN win. So it's incredibly high risk. You're not even gaining much. But this is what you have to do. Is there's no other option. Where you, as you're saying, exactly that. You kind of do need to plan your decay. If you get it out of sync, you're out of sync from everyone else. And your risk reward is wildly different to everyone else. And that can really come and burn you.
But can I say this then, right? You don't want to reveal the secrets, right, completely. You still want to job
I'm
in this.
100% sure it has to do with decay.
Yeah.
There is something a lot more complex than decay, but it would take about 3 hours to explain it.
But this is great for me, right? Because you don't need to reveal this, because now this, to me, and you guys probably won't say it, but I'll say it, there are some teams and managers and general managers who are idiots because they didn't learn this and they don't understand it and they've not put the effort in. And there's some like Messioso, and I'm sure there's others, but obviously they're not talking about it so publicly, that are geniuses at this as well. It may be very hard to follow, but I feel like that this sounds to me like there is going to be a shift within organizations that you need to have someone. We spoke about this last time you were on as well, Mischief, right? That the importance of this, because this can be the difference between you making it or not making it and messing up some of these decisions. And it's all there, right? They can read it all. If they just take the time to go through it all and understand it, it's there, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised more people haven't been chasing someone like you to just like hire you full time. Just make sure we get this straight.
To talk on what Banks just said with kind of team information, I do think there's an important point there. Credit to some teams as well. Like there's some teams like particularly like even pretty low ranked that I've spoke to, and they come in with like an exceptional understanding of VRS. And you're like, wow, fair enough.
So their job is what they bloody should do.
Yeah. I mean, some teams, like we are now 3 years into VRS, and this kind of links to a tweet I put out last week where there's a lot of misinformation. Some of the questions I get from teams are like wildly wrong with their understanding of VRS. We're 3 years in. This isn't great. But for some teams, where they take the effort, they want to go learn the VRS system. Say if you guys as well, you wanted to learn the VRS system and you went to Valve's GitHub repo, there's a README there, good README, because it explains the model. And it says, here are the components that are included within the ranking system. If you're a team you want to do your due diligence and you're trying to read, okay, this is how I'm going to improve as a team. That breakdown there is wrong. It's not true to the current model. It's accurate to probably the original model where it doesn't include all of the components. It doesn't mention LAN wins at all. And as we know, this is probably the biggest part of a VRS system. The code is right, sure. But if your readme, your breakdown is wrong, this isn't great, because at the end of the day, not everyone understands code. To be a GM of a team, you shouldn't be required to learn JavaScript. If Valve's own model isn't reflecting, like the readme isn't reflecting it how it works,
so Valve needs to update this.
Yeah. Like a team shouldn't be expected to have to learn code to understand their own model.
I'd be screwed. I don't know code. That's fair.
There's a hilarious conversation with like Messioso when I was first trying to learn the VRS, as he helped me learn it in the very beginning, where they have these good table breakdowns on the GitHub repo. And I was trying to sum all the numbers up. And when you sum it up, it doesn't work because it doesn't explain that these values are clamped to the 5th best team either. There's a lot of things in their own GitHub repo where if you are a team trying to learn, it doesn't make sense. And like without Uknud, no one would have a clue what's going on. And I do think this needs to change, because if teams don't even have an explanation on how to try and game the VRS, what are they going to do?
So looking at that then, right, is it Jesper Uknud? He's like the very top of all of this VRS, right? He is the genius who understands absolutely everything. Then it's you, and then it's Messioso, or who are we putting?
I don't know. I've done I'd like to say as a person, I have a very good understanding, and I've written a few PRs, one of them not going down too well from a Valve perspective. But I have a good understanding of a model. Explaining it, all Uknud. Like I'm nowhere near. He's a much better user of words, let's put it like that.
Yeah.
I get very involved in the numbers, and some of the more like, I think the thing that's going to affect a lot of teams next time is the anchor, particularly with teams this time where we've seen teams going, why is X gaining more than us than A? A lot of this is down to the anchor, and you really have to manage it because it can ruin your team otherwise. Say, for example, BC game, we're currently seeing them dropping in the rankings. If they end up kind of grinding inefficiently due to the gravitational effect of the anchor, it can just kill the roster and kill your entire project. They spend a lot of money on that roster. They probably don't want that. This is something that's very important to the teams, and they do need to keep track of it because otherwise it can get bad quick.
Is this like the same kind of problem that, for example, Liquid and FaZe have been under in some sense, this anchor issue?
Kinda, but somewhat in the opposite way. So anchor is essentially where all of your previous matches are recalculated. So if you're a team which heavily grinds, so a lot of the EU tier 2 teams, they grind a lot. As they improve, so say for example, you beat Heroic, you go up in terms of value of a team, your seed goes up. So the model goes, oh, you're actually a better team. We're going to recalculate all of your old matches with the knowledge that you're a better team. Your wins get smaller, your losses get bigger. So if you've got a huge history, you get dragged back.
Going into a season, you then want to play smaller lands with worse teams to gain rankings. As like, you don't want big wins too early against big teams to level up your team, or is that false?
It's more that you don't want too much history, because if you have a huge amount of history at, like, say, a tier 2 level, like say for example you're playing like CCT, the closed qualifiers, and you play all of them religiously forever. If you do end up going on a run, all of these matches are going to pull you back to that CCT closed qualifier level. It's essentially a reduction in growth the more you play.
So how do you get rid of the anchor? If you put yourself into that position, how do you get rid of it? Is it just not playing for 6 months?
I think the best case is probably M80 from last season, where they had a huge amount of grinding and they made it to that tier 1 level. If they didn't make that jump, they would have basically been screwed. With the issue you get is if you grind a lot, you get like near tier 1, but you don't make it far enough. Due to this anchor, your growth is reduced. So you need to grind more. If you grind more, you get more of an anchor, your growth is reduced. If you make it to tier 1, you're golden, because you can play less matches, which are of higher value, and this essentially reduces your anchor. If you don't make it, the product's dead pretty much. What can you do? You can obviously go on a good like qualifier run to get to tier 1, and then you can clean your anchor by playing these high value, less frequent matches. If you don't go on that run, what can you do? Where if you grind more, your growth is reduced.
Bloody hell.
That sounds counterproductive to some extent.
All right, so we should now touch on Europe, because obviously, first of all, the biggest region, best teams, the madness that ended up happening. Shall we just start with FaZe? Is that where we need to start with this, right? Yeah. That makes the most sense.
I've got a question for you two on it, because I've seen this talked about a lot online. What's the bigger blunder, Outsiders or FaZe missing the major?
Outsiders?
They won and then they didn't qualify because they went out in the RMR.
This is 100% the bigger blunder.
This is worse.
I think.
By the way, I thought it was a new team I hadn't heard of.
Yeah, I thought like, Outsiders has a team now.
I was like, what VRS is this? Another Outsiders?
I can't remember what the animal was. I think it was a honey badger, like the purple honey badger logo, VP.
I remember it was VP when they during the war.
One Rio.
Yeah.
One Rio, and then didn't qualify for the next one.
Obviously, going from winning to not making it is on paper worse than second place to not making it. But I think it's important to remember smaller
established
majors.
Amount, like VP was still, a team under growth when this was happening, while FaZe is very much more an established team. They obviously, have a huge amount of history with some of these players. I think that in itself kind of brings more weight to FaZe in that conversation compared to VP. Obviously, a lot of the VP players are known players and have a good history now, but
expectations.
It was still different.
I mean, I went back and checked like VP's set of results right before the RMR that they ended up failing to qualify in, and they weren't going on like a vitality level run, but they were holding their own in tier 1. And if it was a VRS system, they would have made it to the next major. And that is one of the benefits of the VRS system, where your top level consistent teams do make it. They don't have a bad run in the RMR. FaZe's case, like VRS is very forgiving to a tier 1 bubble. And it kind of should be, as you do need stability at the top level. You want orgs to invest. The fact they managed to miss it with all of this benefit to tier 1, as well as there's no even RMRs where if you do get upset by new coming teams, all of this, and they managed to miss it, is ridiculous, really.
Looking at
I think
that,
when
though,
we were recording our last episode, I mentioned how many wins FaZe had this year, I think. And it was
I remember.
1 in February against BC Game, another one in February against Heroic, and then they've won against Monte and Aim Club. That was all their wins, I think, the last time we recorded an episode in the entire year.
They managed to get a win against B later, though, so that's not a too bad result.
And the drama.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I think they were ranked 234th coming into that event, so decent caliber. I will say that in the case of it kind of being a bit too forgiving to tier 1, I think everyone's pretty much agreed FaZe had a horror season, and you really can't defend that at all.
They can't defend it. They know that.
If they'd cut their losses earlier and they'd gone to a smaller LAN, say either in the place of
that's what I wanted to ask you. Yeah,
they could have guaranteed the major, and I do think this is kind of bad where it's too forgiving to tier 1. Where if they'd gone something like Parkin 1, for example, where it was round robin groups, which is incredibly lucrative for VRS because you can rack up huge amounts of LAN wins, it kind of is a bit more proactive GMing. But if they'd gone to this, even if, say, they come second, which would have been a huge upset, not stomping the event, they guarantee the major without question. It's just
that's like not playing anything else after that, essentially.
Like not including anything they didn't do. If they just racked up some LAN wins there, because they basically had no LAN wins. I forgot how many it was going into HLTV.
It was probably,
but it was like 180
like
points.
2?
It was nothing. Yeah, probably 2 full LAN wins. They basically had nothing. It was ridiculous.
They had
some of the games they played online.
FaZe versus BC Game is a LAN win. Heroic in PGL Cluj-Napoca.
LAN.
Pro League was online.
First one's online. First online game, yeah.
Aim Club at Digital Crusade must have been their 3rd LAN win at that time. So they had 3 LAN wins in the entire year, going up to that point. And you needed 10. Is that the bucket?
Yeah, you can.
And then you improve those.
Yeah. Coming into, so it would have been a bit before Digital Crusade, and if you'd accounted for all of the decay that would have added up to the major, they basically only had like 220-ish points. Every other team is maxed out at 490. This is obviously a very huge disparity, and you can rack up pretty easy LAN wins. Like at some of these events, the caliber isn't the strongest. Like you look at something like Draculan, stacked to hell. You look at BC Game Masters, incredibly stacked. You look at some of the like Urban Riga, the 3rd one, well, pretty stacked. It was a lot easier. You look at Parkin Challenger 1, way easier. Say, for example, FaZe had gone to Epic Clan, which I don't think they're seeing any challenge there at all. It's UK players. It's 13-0, 13-0. They could have maxed out 3 LAN wins there. If they'd had those 3 LAN wins, they make the major off the back of an Epic LAN. Probably not good, but they should. I mean, at the end of the day, they came second last major. Maybe they do deserve this buff.
That's a risk. They don't know if it's approved, if it's ranked games.
But
Mischief can tell them.
I do think it is a bit forgiving. Like, say, for example, Liquid. The only reason that they made the major is the huge amount of points you do get from a tier 1, where they got their 1 win against NIP at Blast Open, and this did kind of propel them there. At the end of the day, you do need to reward tier 1, and obviously you do because it's the top level. But I think there maybe could be a case for balance. But at the same time, you saw a lot of people saying that K27 should be nowhere near the major after only playing tier 2 teams. So if you've got tier 1 teams being too favoured, tier 2 being too favoured, maybe the balance is good. But I think it was a bit forgiving for FaZe, where after the horror season they had, even including no more events, if they'd won the final there, they're at major.
But it felt like I was just looking after, like them falling down time and time again, time and time again, and they still almost made it. It felt weird. Like, what? It felt like they should have been out when they fell the fourth time, maybe.
There's so many points from Budapest. Like,
Yeah, but they were up at 8th, right, or 7th at one point from Budapest, and you just look at their line and it's just doing this the whole time. It's crazy.
We
They
still
came
have
into this year 7th, yeah.
Okay, 7th.
We still have HLTV ranking, and a lot of people go, why does it still exist when we got VRS? But HLTV is much more, it's longer term when VRS is of shorter form. On HLTV ranking, I figure I'm going to get the exact one wrong, but they're either 11th or 12th still.
11th, yes.
Yeah, and it's like, maybe it should be a bit more recency bias. Like, there's some complexity with points where, like, when you do see these cases of people going, oh, I'm only getting +5, I'm only getting +40, they're getting +5, where, sure, true, but to actually push up your points amount and the actual stuff which is weighted, you need to play in these higher tier events which have the maximum weighting. The opportunity to do that is quite rare. Like, say, for example, in my bounty collected, I'm able to get 10 lots of 0.8. Sure, that's really good. You're at 80 times whatever it is, 500. You're at 400 points. This sounds like a really good amount. You're like, oh, getting to 410 must be really easy. To say, for example, like in that case, you need some 0.9s. Theoretically, these aren't the exact numbers. 0.9s are available only at tier 1. That gap, while small, is actually an absolute chasm. And FaZe obviously have the opportunity to play in tier 1 events. So they get these access to the high level of points. Everything does kind of balance out and it kind of works. But when we're in a world,
but this should also be punishing elements for continuously losing straight for 3 months.
I think they'd kind of be more punished if we saw more fluidity. It's just that at the end of the day, a lot of these tier 1 events don't have many open qualifiers either. So you don't see many teams rising up to this bubble. It is pretty consistent. Like, I think it must have been the top 11, 12 for EU. And this is a good thing. But they were basically all guaranteed the major in January. Like, GT was 98%. We can count them. They do hold their own in tier 1, all of these teams. So it's kind of is fair. But it does sometimes seem like, particularly in the case of FaZe, that they can do nothing wrong that would knock them outside of this bubble. Particularly when you have tier 1 events sharing the same invite ranking. Like, we have, I think it's Rio, but they're using the invite ranking, which is 2-3 months before. So you can have a horrific 3 months and you basically get picked back up.
Save yourself.
Yeah.
Well, good luck picking yourself up.
I mean, this was always the problem. This was the reason why people wanted VRS in the first place. Why? Because once you're in that bubble, it's almost, or if you're outside of the bubble, it's almost impossible to make yourself into it. You need to become a top 5 team in the world to burst into that bubble all of a sudden, and be able to stay there. So
not now.
It's different now. It's different now, but I still agree with what you're saying is, if you can't figure yourself out in 3 months period, then maybe them being ranked 33 is even too nice to some extent.
Yeah.
But I would say this, right? Looking at phases in particular, they didn't make the major now. They also didn't end up winning that HLC. They're going to be down in the dumps after what happened in Bucharest. They end up going 0-3, and then you're going to Rio. This is going to be more catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
They don't win a game there.
It's just a case of
should
they extend this lifeline, though, where they keep failing, but they keep getting opportunity.
What would you say the time frame needs to be, though?
They could essentially pick up 1 win in one of these tournaments, and they would skyrocket themselves compared to the competition of Alliance, the competition of eyeballers, and these teams that have been grinding their way up to get to this kind of plateau. and they are getting 75% win rate of their games. They have 80% win rate against their game. Doesn't matter if you blend in tier 1 opposition or not. But then FaZe kind of strides past them with their 34% win rate,
But
picking up
didn't
one
FaZe
win in a big
deserve
tournament.
it? FaZe deserve it from having that second place at the major, right? In their ability to, like, for example, FaZe went last major from stage 1 all the way to second place. You might disagree
They
that the fact
deserve
their
it
points held
until
on.
this point, I
No,
think.
wait, I ain't fucking finished yet.
All right.
So they go from stage 1. They could have lost at that point. They grind all their way through. Many of the teams you mentioned that are below them now in the rankings would never pull off a run like that. Many of those teams. If we look down this, right, you talk about Alliance, talk about 3D Max, NIP, K27, Gentlemates, like, they're not names I'm going to say that could have that miracle run. It may have been some FaZe magic. It may have been some FaZe bullshit or something else, but they did earn that curve. So my question to Mischief was, should it be shorter then for the invite range? Should it be, what, a month and a half? Like, what do you think is a solution?
It's obviously difficult to do with visas, planning, all of that.
Yeah,
And
especially for different countries.
You did mention a relevant team there as well, who have also had an unideal season, but they didn't have this golden finalist major run. 3D Max, they're getting the same exact lifeline at Rio. Should they be afforded this? It does seem like, particularly where we have kind of invites clustered at the start of the season, it does feel like that there's almost, we still kind of have partnership slots without the partnerships, because it's like, oh, sure, we're going to use all of our invite rankings at the start of the season. So all of the teams coming into it are going to get a lifeline for pretty much the whole season. So at the end of the season, they're in the same spot. They get the same lifeline.
Same with bait, same treatment there.
I don't.
They might not be in the same spot though, right? Because like 3D Max is in such a downturn. Bait was in such a downturn. We touched on it last episode, Devilwalk,
but
of like
their
how rough it
invites
was.
are still, now they picked up, obviously, in the VRS. They were on a downtrend, and then they pick up for a few wins. They go, a huge step upwards very, very quickly.
Okay, explain to me then, because maybe I don't understand. Could 3D Max, where are they right now in Europe? 3D Max are
15th.
19th.
They're good now because of just matches just gone. They just went 3-1 in the Swiss stage.
Okay, so they've gone up. I'm just looking at the invite. So on the invite date, they were 19th, right? But if they do what, they just need 1-2 wins in Rio on LAN, and it could put them back into the good position for rankings?
I mean, outside of these tier 1 teams, how often do tier 2 teams have the opportunity to play in these big prize pool events? It's somewhat an issue within the VRS, because prize pool matters a lot. Because for half of the components, it affects their weight. The maximum weight you get if it's $1 million. If it's above $1 million, it's the exact same weight. So a lot of these events, and it's pretty much the tier 1 standard, is $1 million prize pool, or we quite often see $1.25 million. Realistically, best case scenario, what's the tier 2 prize pool? Probably 100 grand, more often 50 grand. When you've got such a big divide, while it looks like a small amount of points, as we discussed, because it's on the curve, that gap is actually huge. Because if you're a tier 2 team, how often do you get a play? You're
essentially raising the roof of points you can accumulate
exactly.
comparably to other teams, right?
Yeah. Like how often, for example, like Alliance, they've just gone a great run. I think it's a really good team and it's looking great for the future. How often will they get the opportunity to play in tournaments above, say, 200 grand?
I mean, this season probably once.
It's not frequent.
Maybe at the very, very end, or maybe if they're lucky, if the K and not too many people, surpass them during the major, they might get the opportunity to play one at the start of next season with what they've done.
Yeah.
So,
but it's very infrequent. Compare it to FaZe, they get all of this opportunity, and it's obviously a very, very different picture. And it's kind of, how do you bridge that gap? I don't think necessarily anything should be changed in the weighting. I think it could maybe be changed from more of a rule perspective, where TOs are required to have, not at every event, but maybe throughout the course of the year, more open qualifiers to actually give some fluidity and some opportunity.
What would you say to things like, let's say, Draculan winners would get a spot into a tournament, to like a tier 1 tournament?
That can already happen. So if you win a tier 2 event, you get a tier 2, or even if you come second place, you have your tier 2 wildcard eligible. So you can be invited to any tier 2 VRS events. You can be invited to any tier 1 VRS events. But it isn't used. So yeah, it's just.
But what if it was forcefully used in some extent?
Maybe
Players wouldn't agree to that because of the
yeah.
whole. It's not their event, you know. If they were going to do it, it would be an ESL or a Blast or a PGL. Their own qualifier equals you get a spot here.
I mean,
otherwise, it doesn't make sense for them.
We have it
Business.
with EPL. Well, we had it at least with DreamHack and the BYOC. It's just in DreamHack NA, I think they got like 4 teams because it's pretty hard to get buyout going there. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the case. That was the first. I think did the first major have? No. Yes, I think
it might
it
have
had
a bio qualifier.
I think it had a bio. Yeah, I think it had a bio qualifier for the first major in CS:GO.
Maybe not Bark events qualifying into big tier 1
no,
events.
but I'm just that was back.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Different days, different.
I just Devilwalk was a kid.
Valve have kind of
oldest guy in my team.
Valve have kind of tried to push this a little bit because they made a change to tier 1 events where you now need to invite 20 teams. And obviously, 20 is a pretty awkward number, so maybe they're hoping 20 VRS invites, 4 qualifiers. Maybe they just want to nurture it along and they don't want to push it. Maybe they could be a bit more aggressive with it. Like, I'm not saying a TO for every single tier 1 event they run, they have to include qualifiers in every single region. Just maybe if you're hosting tier 1 events across the year, you've got to have a certain amount of qualifier slots. To host a wildcard event, you have to do a certain amount of tier 1 events if you want to host a tier 1 wildcard. Maybe if you're hosting tier 1 events across the year, you have to do, say, 1 tier 1 event that has qualifiers in it. Maybe you have to do 2.
But it would be healthy for the scene, I think, for not having different ladders placed all over the place to kind of interconnect them to some degree. And obviously it brings prestige to tier 2 tournament, tier 3 tournaments to some extent, and also gives hope where, okay, are we ready to take this challenge? We have a chance to get into a big event. And it's just one team. I'm not saying every single tier 2 tournament should be an eligible way into, but we're building prestige even now during seasons where some tournaments we have high regard for and some we have lower regard for, etc. So I kind of think that this kind of pyramid in some way is shaping itself, and we can, with Valve's help, obviously allocate these slots in a better way.
Yeah, because I wouldn't actually say it's tier 1 teams that aren't being punished enough for doing too poorly. I think it's just more tier 2 teams don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
Because when I'm running to go get a little one here, I'm always I've got a headset, so wireless headset. I can hear what you're saying. For example, 3D Max can do well at these events, but because they didn't make the major, surely they're going to have to grind next season no matter what, right? They are going to be on the back foot because they didn't make the major. They didn't play those LAN games, the important major games.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest punishment is not getting the points during the major. For example, like
that's what I'm saying. So they're not in the major,
right?
So they can't get it, right? So then they're going to be down no matter what.
Yeah. Speaking of a major, there is a little gimmick about it where, in the major, if you're a big team, you want stage 3. As far as I'm aware, that's worth a huge amount of money. Stage 2 and stage 1, they're pretty much equal as far as I might be wrong, right? I don't know for certain, but as far as I'm aware,
it's pretty equal.
It's pretty equal.
Depending what stickers come, what people like. It's very dependent on what symbols the teams have that go into each slot, because that's what people want on their guns, and therefore more people will buy it. So technically, it's not true. It's just that more people want the stage 3 teams generally.
But stage 2, you don't get any VRS point benefit from this. So it is far more advantageous to be a stage 1 team to qualify to stage 2, because you're going to get 3 wins. You're going to get wins against good opponents at a high value event. You're then in stage 2, and you've gained a huge amount of points from that. The stage 2 teams don't have it.
True.
There's a bit of a gimmick there, which is quite nice for if you're a team which had a bit of a struggling season. And then you can suddenly kind of recharge everything in stage 1. Say, for example...
Did Bait do that run last time?
Well, FaZe definitely did it, but I think Bait went
Yeah.
to stage 2, right?
It's always hard to remember. All the majors blend together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Quickly
trying to
research.
think. So
But like a Gamer Legion, for example, they obviously just missed out on stage 2.
no, they
They
were
go on a
stage
good-
1. Bait.
Bait was stage
Oh, okay.
1.
Yep.
Okay.
But if Gamer Legion now go on a good run, they're going to be in a really good spot for the second season of the year. So maybe not making stage 2 isn't so bad after all. We do have to go on a run though, so we'll see.
And
Yeah.
and the last thing I want, because we've done a lot on VRS, right? And we keep taking your time for quite a long time. I also want to ask around the Belgrade thing with HLC, right? Because
Yeah.
I looked at the tweeting that was being done by Striker, for example, and he said, just to make sure it's not spreading, I deleted the previous tweet because I was wrong about HLC. FaZe signed up in time, but I heard they declined. Is there anything potentially dodgy around that? Like they declined it, they weren't going to attend, and they did so badly, and then they said, yeah, I'm going back. And obviously the TO is not going to say no to FaZe wanting to come to their event.
I did touch on this a bit earlier, and I'll probably retouch over it again.
Is that why there's 4 teams in one group?
HLC was no. Like HLC was pretty complicated. Is probably the political way to put it. Where I don't want to say like I don't think FaZe broke any rules at all. I don't think they did anything wrong.
But the TO could have.
I think it would have been quite hard for FaZe to break the rules, to put it one way. I don't think that's even a TO issue. I think this is a tour issue, where because it is this case of an open event where it's VRS seeded, it's basically invites but not invites. But it's a huge grey area.
It's that thing again that we spoke about.
Yeah, it shouldn't exist at all.
Okay.
So that FaZe were invited, declined it, but then they said they want it back, and obviously the TO goes, well, shit, you're FaZe. You best come, let's go.
I mean, it kind of almost isn't even an invite, because they're an open sign-up. Can you decline a sign-up where this rule doesn't even really exist? Like, in the case of FaZe, they obviously signed up well before the time. This is fine. And the deadline appeared to be going a bit backwards. I was trying to get all of the teams so I can run the predictions. And I got a team list from pretty much every team who ended up in attendance. They all had pretty much the exact same team list. FaZe was not on it. So I'm guessing that's probably where HLTV probably had a similar team list too, and they thought they weren't in attendance. It's not like a case of where FaZe were after the deadline, which I saw some people saying they snuck in.
Yeah.
Didn't really happen. But there was a lot of things with HLC which were awkward, where some of the more key aspects of the tour, so when you announce your tournaments, you have to say the seeding date. And this is really important for HLC because they're obviously seeding the top 12 teams straight into their tournament. Very important date. Couldn't find it anywhere. In their initial announcement, they linked to a HLTV news page about it. So when HLTV is your primary source, not great. On their own website, they put out their format and they said it'd be elimination with groups. To actually find out if it's double or single, had to go to HLTV. All of this isn't really ideal at all. And they were also missing stuff like for their qualifiers, there weren't spreadsheets on the sign-up timing. And teams did seem to have very varying levels of information. Obviously, I don't want to say this is Relog's fault at all. And I don't think
this has been a common issue like for a long time. Even, I've dealt with a lot of different tournament organizers, Google scheduling, everything. Sometimes I look at a document and I see the bracket and I see that it's not even, correct. If I compare it to HLTV and the official document, it's different.
I mean,
the information on HLTV would be more correct than the official document you're handed.
I mean, what happened with HLTV in the end with Belgrade is they ended up using a different bracket on their site. And as far as I'm aware, it's probably what they had earlier. And it just wasn't accurate to the sheet either. There was a lot of changes. I don't want to suggest Relog were intentionally being malicious here. And they obviously had huge issues where they had to relocate. They put out some statements. It seemed like it was a very complicated time. And I don't think they were actively committing any wrongdoing. Like, it's just a case of unfortunate circumstances. The issue is that for teams deciding to go, it's incredibly murky. And I spoke to some teams that were in the major race and they made the active decision not to attend because they either weren't sure it was happening at all. And I would say until 3 days before, I had no clue it would happen. I spoke to some people who realistically would have a much better idea, like more senior in the scene. They didn't have a clue if it was going on. And it was teams like, okay, we're not going to risk this. It might not happen. It might not even be ranked. Some people mentioned some of the tweets you would have seen about the qualifiers. They were like, it's all a bit too murky. We're not going to attend. It did end up ranked. It offered a huge amount of points. It had a pretty weak field. So if you're a team that doesn't know if it's going to be ranked or happen at all, you might cost yourself a major by not attending, but you don't know. And it's what I was saying earlier in these cases where you kind of need Valve to have that human touch. I know they never will.
We need that website.
Yeah, like all you would need is just a definitive website like the Counter-Strike website. It had a list of all events, pending, active, or disallowed. There needs to be 100% clarity on this because that situation was incredibly murky for what is a valuable event, and teams need to know if we need to attend to make the major. Like, say, for example, if you're a Sinners, if this event isn't on, you already know you're safe for the major a week in advance. Obviously, they ended up making it, but because you have no clue if the event is happening or not, like, what can you do? Say, for example, you decided, oh, okay, I don't think this event is going to happen. I'm going to go to a lower tier event, but I know it's guaranteed happening. I know it's ranked. At the same time, there was Gamers Assembly, for example. A lot weaker teams, lower prize pool, it's going to be worth less points, but you know it's safe to go there. Then it flips around on you and, oh no, you didn't attend a really high value event. That could absolutely screw you over due to no fault of your own because there isn't clarity. I'm not trying to blame Relog at all, and it's just a recent case, but this whole grey area, and it's obviously not their fault, this is a kind of developer level, we can't have this grey area. We need to have a collation that they are meeting the tour. So Valve need to collect this and approve it. They need to have the events that are happening so people know what to attend. And we need de facto team lists because what happened with the whole HLC situation, no one had a clue who was attending pretty much. Because while you had this sign-up sheet, because it was using seeds and you didn't know who was going to decline, you didn't have a clue who was in attendance. Say, for example, Vitality had signed up on the sheet. There's no way to verify if this is even a fake Vitality. Because someone could just sign up saying, yeah, I'm Vitality. You can't verify it. This needs to be done centrally, because if it's not, it's just entirely unclear. And as a team trying to navigate this, it's like wading around in a pitch black room with a blindfold on. You can't do it.
Yeah, obviously a massive issue. But at least we've discussed some solutions, and hopefully, Valve, maybe they are listeners to this podcast. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to ping them.
That'd be a dream.
Yeah, it's so many gray zones in the VRS system, obviously, as we've discussed, that needs to be fixed, and hopefully that's something that they will. I don't think that they will have a super active approach, but in a dream, I could see the website idea actually be in effect, where they don't have any real contact. It's essentially a form filling submission page. I could see that happening.
I mean, I think it's when they're in Hawaii for right now, so it's maybe not the best comparison, but drawing a comparison with how active Valve are, they obviously have their major rulebook, and the major rulebook has what invites are going to which region. You check it right now. If it's been updated in the past 2 hours, my bad. But if you go to it right now, and ESL have already sent out all of their invites, they've been confirmed. It has the old regional distribution as 16 slots for EU, 6 for Asia. And this is what Valve is saying what the invites are. It's obviously not, because the invites have gone out to the teams.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Misinformation everywhere, more confusing everywhere. Yeah. I just want to touch a bit more on some of the EU teams as well. For me, it was a big surprise a team like Bait or Heroic made it, considering how Bait was bleeding points left, right, and center. Obviously, that park and win helped Bait a lot, right? That was the saving grace.
Yeah.
But for Heroic, doing this without an AWPer, not knowing what team you were going to have, was this a team you expected to make it the whole time, or?
I think they played the VRS game pretty well. They had a very good spread of events, and it's maybe what teams like FaZe and Bait could have done instead. So Bait always had a pretty low percentage because all they had really was parking. If this goes wrong, it's over. If they'd lost, I can't remember if it was either one match before or even in the final, they wouldn't have made it. There was no room for error at all. And as 3D Max learned, because they didn't have much room for error either, it can cost you. Heroic, they attended so much. They had a massive scope of field. If they were going to miss it, it would have been an absolutely monumental mess up. And they would have had to have so many losses. And as we saw from FaZe, this can't happen. But they managed to just get it in across the line. And they had enough spread of wins. They left themselves with the opportunity to do it. And they just about did it. In the case of someone like 3D Max, they didn't have that failsafe or even what could have happened with Bait. If you leave it to such few amount of events, you don't have that opportunity if it all goes wrong to pick yourself back up. With Heroic had some losses, they had some good wins. They had enough level of variance, so it would average out, they'd make the major. If you're playing one LAN, it could be over like that. And for some it was.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, what else have we got on here? So we covered the Liquid things. We covered kind of the pros and cons. You had some images we were going to bring up as well, right? Which one do you want me to start with?
This was essentially on the talk of the regions, right?
Yeah. One of them is like the heat map thing where it's got bars. That's more aligned with kind of a VRS global snapshot of time.
So with the bars, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let me, Devilwalk, shall I share this for you?
I have it up.
You've got it up? Cool. That's fine then. All right, so this says team modifier value comparison 2024 versus 2026.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I've got no idea what is going on, but I appreciate this probably took a lot of effort to put into it all.
So this is a comparison from the first ranking that Valve gave us in August 2024 and the ranking, the major ranking as of 2 days ago. So VRS is made up of 4 components: your bounty offered, collected, opponent network, LAN wins. And you can be either at the maximum in it, you can be at the minimum in it. So it's a range from 0 to 1 in each component. You would hope that the best teams are the highest in that value. You would hope that the worst teams are the lowest in that value. If you look at bounty offered, so if you just look at what was happening back in August 2024, the top teams have the highest bounty offered, the worst teams are the lowest. Bounty collected, again, it's from best, and it's a less gradual reduction, but it does reduce. The more yellow colors are at the top.
I see.
You see
what the difference is.
Yeah, you see it a bit with opponent network too, but you see some kind of jumps in the lower ranks, particularly around the 100 mark. So opponent network it's a concept of own network, and own network is how much you offer to other teams that beat you. And own network is made up of how many distinct opponents you've defeated. As you can imagine, that means that for tier 2 European teams, they're actually going to have a lot of distinct opponents defeated because there's so many European teams. So it kind of, tier 2 EU teams often offer more own network, and it gets a bit counterintuitive. But at the end of the day, it's still fine. It's kind of an accuracy metric, and it gets balanced out by everything else. And you look
because they're playing so much, right?
Yeah. It's not a bad thing, really. You look back at
see,
August
even here, like some teams have pretty high component
opponent
value.
network. Yeah.
Like even around rank 125, even here 175, where it used to be all kind of black with very, very low value.
This is a good change, actually, that came in the VRS system, where previously earlier stages of qualifiers, they'd be worth $1, essentially no value. And Valve put in the change where events that qualify to a future event, they get a portion of that prize pool. So you do actually see a lot more trickle down gradually in the opponent network from 2024 to 2026, which is really good. And I'd say all of these top 3 components are working well, where the top teams have the most, the bottom teams have the least. This is good. But one thing I haven't touched on is LAN wins. You look in August 2024, and it's very much a rarity. You have the top teams having it.
Like never?
Because they're playing tier 1 events. After that, it's basically no one. You're going to have teams going to the local LANs like Epic LAN, like Gamebox, Fragadelphia. but there's not really too much incentive. And past the top 25, no one really has above like 0.5, 0.6. 2026 now, yeah, it's changed a lot.
There's a lot of yellow
one way
just
to put it.
jumping in there.
If you look at the bottom, you can see the delta, where the bluer it is, it means it's gone down. The redder it is, it means it's gone up. If you look across the board, there's not really much change. A lot of it's white, which means no change. LAN wins, yeah, it's changed a lot, is probably one way to put it. This is good, because Valve might be happy from this, because it's more accurate data. There's no ping effects. Results should be more accurate. Better integrity too. Also, they might just want to revitalize their LAN scene. There's a lot of good here. But pretty much up till the top 75, everyone has LAN wins. Like, absolutely everyone. This isn't necessarily good, because it means to compete at all, you need to have LAN wins, and you need to have a lot of them. And this is a barrier of entry to the scene. Obviously, there are some pros here, but it is a cost factor. You've got to be able to afford to go to these LANs.
I like it, though.
I mean,
I like it that it's pushing it for more for LAN.
To some extent, we want LAN wins because of accuracy of an opponent to some degree. Because if it's only online, we've always had the stigma in CS. You have to go prove yourself in LAN. There's a lot of murky business in the online tournaments. Increasing number of people who throw games and all of this kind of stuff.
I think
obviously it can happen on LAN, but it is.
I think the only. I think the only potential issue is what I touched on a bit earlier, where it is a bit of a Wild West in the tier 2. Clearly, now that these tier 2 open events are worth so much, it's a really important factor, and LAN should be an important factor. But when you have this lack of policing at the tier 2 level, it can mean these incredibly high value events aren't necessarily fully correct on the books. No, I don't mean on the books, but it's not to the letter, if you know what I mean. And I think it'd be a great situation where if we know this is fully correct and everything's going great. Is it? There's not really much validation done. I'm a big fan of cycling, and I really like the cycling system. Cycling has a ranking system, which is points. Certain events are worth more than others, and they have wildcard invites. Starts to sound a bit similar. And there's a few alignments there. In the cycling world, there's these events called monuments, which are your biggest, highest prestige events. They're your one-day races, so kind of like tier 2-ish. And these are like
the France or whatever.
No. So this is smaller than that. It's like your one-day races, monuments. You're like most historical races. Maybe if instead of Valve wanting to be really strict on the tier 2 scene, they kind of go on the flip side where you reward compliance compared to punishing non-compliance. So say, for example, LAN wins worth a lot. You keep them still worth a lot at a flat value. They're not affected by stakes. Like even if a LAN was now reduced to 0.6, that's still worth a huge amount. Some of these TOs who are doing it really well and they're following everything to the letter exactly. They've been around and they're doing great things, great production, etc. Valve can classify them as these monuments that are worth a high amount of points, but are announced well in advance, because the requirement for tier 2 open land is only 2 weeks. You could have it announced more. I know, it's crazy. You could have it at the normal tier 2 level of, say, 2 months. Teams can plan around it. They know it's going to happen. There's none of this gray area issue of, is it going to happen? Is it going to be ranked? This is telegraphed well in advance.
There seems like everything just comes back to this website idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Submission and approval, and and probably what you're saying is, if people like, the more you go into these rules and do them well, the higher point system you should gain from them.
Like LAN wins is an interesting component because it's the only component which isn't, well, ignoring bounty offered, but regardless, it's the only component that isn't weighted by the event quality. This isn't by quality, I mean the prize pool. This isn't really a bad thing, as it allows movement, but there's no real disparity right now between a tier 2 event which is breaking the rules and gets ranked, and a tier 2 event that does it perfectly. They've got amazing production, great setup. Maybe reward this.
Right?
like if Valve are fully wanting to never go back to the RMRs at all, you can have these pseudo RMRs that are done by the third-party community, but teams know that they're going to be what realistically decides their major.
Yeah. I like it. And on to this next graphic you gave us.
Yeah. This is about the regions.
The regions. Because this one, mate, this looks like you've just had some fun.
This is
Where should I zoom in first? Where should I zoom in first for everyone watching at home?
Well, we should explain which each ball or cluster is first, probably.
So just as the big picture, obviously teams play matches against other teams. So every little dot here is a node, and it's every team that's been ranked, that was currently ranked as of 2 days ago. Teams play matches against each other, and all of the lines are your connections between other teams. So say, for example, you're a team that plays another team a lot, you're going to have lots of lines to them. An algorithm called Force Atlas 2 is run on it, and it uses a gravitational effect where teams that play each other a lot are going to be clumped together. Clusters that play each other a lot are going to be clumped together. So say, for example, you can see the academy scene, you can see the female scene as they come.
I just saw the academy team at like this very top point, right? We're in a circle academy, young ninjas. Yeah.
So you see the tier 1 teams in the middle.
So when you're zoomed out, it's the full picture of the ecosystem. VRS is split between 3 regions. So you would hope, if it's a region,
it should be 3 clusters.
Exactly. Well, you get the tier 1 cluster, but on the external of it, there should be 3 regions playing among each other. As you notice there isn't 3, there isn't 4. You realistically end up as 5. You have, in the light blue cyan at the very top, you have Europe. Europe is obviously a very big region, but because of the ping benefits, like Western Europe and Eastern Europe often play each other, and they end up very connected. In the middle, in the green, you have tier 1. On the right-hand side, in the weird, like magenta cyan, it's North America. On the exact opposite side, on the left-hand side, it's Asia, in like the maroony red. And in the bottom, at the orange, you end up with South America. You get some teams in the middle, like Marsborn are kind of bridging the gap. They've obviously gone from North to South America. You have someone like Fisher College, who's a European team, but they're officially in my rankings, they're a European team, but they're in the North American cluster because they play in North America. I've notably left a region on its own, and that's Oceania, who is in the very bottom right, kind of, or a little blue section.
Can I just mention this? I love that Big is like closer to the South American region than Europe. Just left there, close to Bestia.
Let me find Big.
One.
Big and Bestia.
I think in Big's case, it's a little fork off because like you can kind of abandon old rosters almost, where there's like a stranded team where it's like only 6 of your old matches which will become detached from you. That might be in the case of Big. Like, for example, I think you can see 2 NRGs pretty easily, where there's 1 NRG in the tier 1 section. There's 1 between tier 1 and North America. This happens a little bit. But Oceania is incredibly notably on its own. If you ignore Semper Fi and you look at like the main Oceania cluster of Rooster, Thunderdown Under, Ground Zero, there's like 4 lines which go to Asia. These scenes do not play each other at all. From a data perspective, there's no overlap. If it wasn't for VRS, they wouldn't really play against each other. And this
they are the most segregated.
If Semper Fi wasn't in this data, they would just be a ball by themselves.
It'd be pretty much like in our solar system, it'd be like Pluto on its own. Like there is no overlap really. And you've got these teams which don't interact with each other competing for a major slot. As we discussed earlier, it's a 10-hour flight. Should this be happening? No.
The graphic's very ideal, by the way. This looks like a 10-hour flight as well. That perfectly sums this up. Like the distance is accurate right now because you can see the Americans can go to Europe. The South Americans go to Europe. China can go to Europe, and then you got the Aussies down here on their own. Semper Fi occasionally goes to Europe, but no one else. They're just chilling.
I think from very much a data perspective, it's clear. At the end of the day, there are 5 essentially scenes competing among each other. If a major is meant to be a global tournament where it collects from all scenes, it probably should reflect that. But who's to say?
Cool. Well, this is really good. I enjoyed looking at that. Now this makes a lot of sense. So thank you very much for sharing it, Mischief. Devil, did you have any final questions for him before we get onto the actual Q&A stuff?
No, I think we can just head straight into the Q&A. Some viewer questions. I think we have a total of 5.
Yeah, we got a few in there.
Yeah.
You want to read out the first one for Mischief if he's ready for this little Q&A showdown for him?
All right. This is from our almost in-house question maker, Scourger.
He may as well join us at this point, by the way.
Yeah.
He may as well be part of the team.
Official. He's been here since episode 1, like writing questions.
Doesn't miss.
For every single episode, by the way.
Also, the only person to ever see us like live that wasn't in the arena before.
Invited him to our live recording.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
So, Scourger. Question for Mischief as the VRS man. I might be ousting myself and not knowing the rules well enough, but if I am right, it is an amazing case study this early into VRS. Could you work out how close GG were to qualify via the Asia VRS system if they had not been forced into the European VRS by Lucky replacing Mini, who was trapped in Lebanon for Roman 6? The recent Roman 7 Cup, where they attended up with 4 teams in their group.
Where they
ended up with 4 teams in their group instead of 5, and then lost 16-14 to Sinners, roughly ranked 24 versus 74, meant that they never made 5 games on LAN to change regions back to the Asia VRS. So may have missed out on the major by a 1-round swing and would have knocked out FlyQuest.
Yeah, I mean, I think this goes back to what we were discussing earlier about so Valve ended up changing how region allocation works, where it works off the active roster. And the active roster is a snapshot of the 5 players who've essentially played the most in the past 10 matches. It gets a bit complicated at a time, but it's basically that. Should 10 matches in your most recent 10 matches be used to determine your roster? In the case of GG House, obviously would have messed them up if it did go to the higher priority region, because they would be stuck in Europe. And I guess it's kind of just one of those things. But it's definitely an awkward one where you'd almost be kind of pushed to drop out of the tournament so you don't accidentally swap your region.
Yeah.
GG has an interesting case as well, because their roster is such on a border where depending on who they use due to something like a wild card or a priority, it can flip. But you can just theoretically lift their points, move them to Asia. If they had the right roster, they would have got the slot. We saw kind of cases in a similar way to GG How, where I always forget who it is, but they've got 2 Kazakhstanis, where if they'd added a third, they end up flipping to Asia or whatever country it is. I've probably forgotten anyway. But yeah, regions are a bit weird. They're almost a bit on a teeter where they can just suddenly flip one way and it's like, whole season's changed after 5 games. Maybe not brilliant, but yeah.
Especially with the stand-in situation, if players want to go to a LAN and play it out. In this case, where it was, obviously a player was trapped in his country and couldn't leave.
It's kind of like special circumstances that would almost get you a pass.
That's where probably you want the human touch to come in and make a case to case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about the strict angle of your region is decided at the very start of the season.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question's from Aska, and he says, does the recent incident with Lynn Vision violate the rules of the VRS system? Is it considered cheating? And if so, will there be any changes to the rules of the VRS system? Also, do you think that the VRS system is based on the pay-to-win format, where the big teams simply start participating in tier 2 tournaments to gain more points at the end of the major invitation period, or try to get on the last train like FaZe Clan did and failed? He had to add the and failed bit in, didn't he? Thereby depriving tier 2, tier 3 teams of any real chance to qualify for the major, even stage 1, devaluing all of their work, when these same tier 2, tier 3 teams spend months competing in local tournaments only to have their spots taken away at the last moment, as, for example, situation with Team Liquid. P.S. Happy birthday, Devilwalk.
Thank you.
I'll probably touch on the second half of it first about that pay-to-win system. We kind of did touch on it already, where it is the issue of that you do have to attend these LANs, and if you have the money to do it, you're in a far better position. If you don't have the money, like say any of the lower tier organizations, say outside the top 100, they just don't have the opportunity to do that run. They can't attend the events. They can't even attend, like they can't attend the events. They don't have the opportunity to win. Maybe they could have won. We'll never know because they couldn't really attend. Particularly as well, if we see more of these events, which are open lands, but we actually see the top teams in, it's going to benefit the top teams even more as they get these more safeguarded events where they can't even have massive losses to these underranked teams. We could get quite a gate-kept kind of, it wouldn't really be a local LAN scene because at that point it isn't, but a gate-kept LAN scene which kind of keep all of the points collected among a few teams. To go to the first point about, is it cheating? Not really, because something like this isn't really covered at all. So I had this discussion recently where people are saying, oh, teams shouldn't be allowed to sign up to 2 events on the team's end. True, sure, yeah, I agree. But currently within VRS, there are no rules at all for teams. Everything that is, say, enforced upon teams, like say, for example, the recent changes of gambling sponsors, skin gambling, that's done at the TO level, where TOs are told when they apply for the license, this cannot show up on broadcast in your coverage, etc. This is a TO rule. It's not a team rule. There aren't any actual rules enforced upon the teams. And again, it goes back to that issue of this is a really grey area where if you had any kind of blanket rule, it wouldn't really work. And it always gets overridden anyway by the golden admin rule of admin discretion is final. And we've kind of got another question here. It comes back to the issue, human touch. I think realistically, a lot of these issues with VRS are. And the Lynn Vision case was kind of a bit awkward because fully ignoring that first game anyway, look at the second game, it's due to a time clash. Yeah, happens. Third game, it does seem like one of the Thai players was ill. And from the statements Lynn Vision have released and from other stuff I've seen from journalists, it does seem like from their perspective, they're pretty angry. They didn't want to qualify to the major this way. And it's just a case of, it's just not a great run for all parties. Yeah.
It does, like, from just looking at it from an outside perspective, that the first thought you get in your head is a little bit cheating, especially because of the one game is played and then the next one is just like dropped off. So yeah, it looks really, really weird. But yeah, hopefully everyone is okay and there was no ill intent involved.
Next question for you to read.
Mass says, for a team starting from the 0, what is the best way to approach VRS when gaining points?
Play lands. I mean,
play lands.
Yeah.
Land wins.
I think the most obvious template, I think it was really important that they did this as well, because I've seen some stuff come out, and I've no clue if it's true or not, because at the end of the day, I'm not doing these big, massive transfers. But you see some reporting that players are now incredibly, incredibly high buyouts, and some people are partially attributing that to the VRS. I somewhat fail to see that ish, because at the end of the day, players don't hold the VRS points anyway. So it wouldn't make the most sense, but maybe it's trying to hold together the core, sure, whatever. And we see this talked about all the time on HLTV Confirmed, where XYZ player has a massive buyout now, and it really restricts movements. And if you're trying to build a new team, it can make that difficult. And 100 Thieves have shown that from a brand new project, you can start off from nowhere and make it. They must be saying already like 40th in the world globally.
42 right now. Yep.
They've risen so far, so quick. It's doable. If you don't play too many matches, which are going to reduce your growth, you play efficient events, you play on LAN, you can have a project which is already worth more than the 2.5 million BC game core. And I don't think it would have cost them 2.5 million to attend. I think they did 2-3 LANs in total.
Yeah.
It's not going to rack you up millions, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Basically, copy Messioso. Yeah.
Devil, ask the next one because I want to ask the last one.
Okay, this is from Luigi Illism. Aside from LAN and LAN wins, what impacts the VRS point? Also, how do you usually analyze them? What do you use and where do you get those juicy points?
So
He's trying to steal your job, by the way, Mischief. Be careful here. Don't give away too much.
the LAN wins is the main component. It's like the sexy component of VRS because it's what everyone sees and everyone talks about. You have the more, as we saw from that graph, the more gradual changes of bounty offered, which is essentially your winnings over time. You play more events, you win more events, you're going to have more prize money. Bounty collected, which is the teams you've beaten. You play more events, you beat good teams, you collect it. You can't really gamify these, really. There's no real way to cheat it. There's the little tidbit of note when you get your first $1, that's worth about 60 points. At most events, you're not going to see a prize pool below $100. That's worth about 100 points. So it's a massive quick increase because it's on a curve. And it's also pretty notable to TOs where you should have, it's far better to have your prize distribution extend further. So if you have unranked teams like we saw at HLC, the likes of B would have shot up the rankings and shot up in their worth if they had even received a singular $1 from the HLC prize pool. You want to have that kind of extend deeper and further from a TO perspective to make your events worth more.
So when you get into this, would it be possible, me and Banks, we start our own LAN event, and
we spoke about this.
It's open registration. But the thing is that every attending team gets at least $1 of prize money, no matter how they rank. Would that be, within the VRS system rules?
Nothing
and
stops
would they gain? And they would gain the points from that.
Say, for example, like B were an unranked team. When FaZe beat them, they're worth no bounty. They're offering no bounty. They're gaining nothing from it. As soon as they gain $1, it goes up to like 0.134 out of 1, which is a pretty big increase. You're going from 0% to 13%. And if FaZe have the spare bucket slot, they're getting a lot of good chunk of points from it. The only thing that would stop you doing this is if HLTV don't cover the stage. Like sometimes we do see tournaments with prize pool slots and the prize pool slot isn't covered. But I'd say the most optimal format for a TO, and it does vary a lot and it depends what's going on in the scene. But I'd say 2 months ago, the most optimal format was LAN round robin because it means tons of matches. Teams are guaranteed to rise. Unless you're the worst team there, you're guaranteed at least one win. And then you want prize distribution going down further, as well as also the important third place match, where that could have had a really big impact at Urban Riga, for example, where some of the teams could have offered slightly more, and this could have tipped Passion just over the edge to beat Liquid. It's kind of all mattered here and just didn't have the match there. Obviously, schedule is a massive thing. But
timing of it all.
Yeah, of course. But there's a lot of ways you can optimize your VRS points as a team by copying 100 Thieves. There's a lot of ways you can offer how much your event offers too with trying to kind of expand the data.
That's why I left.
And also the other thing before I get to the final question is, who do you think, Mischief, runs the best event, like the LAN event? For points for VRS, because you're watching them all, right? So who's giving the best? Because I like the Roman VRS, ones personally.
For points in VRS currently, it's from purely a point perspective, and they nearly changed their format, would have made it so much worse, is Parkin, because they have that round robin group. And also for Parkin 1 and 2, you got to CCT Global Finals because it's grid. And this is a huge benefit. As Devil was talking about earlier, you have the pyramid. And this is a really good tie-in they've done where their lands become worth a lot more because there's future stakes. Their lands on paper are worth a huge amount of points. Yeah. But also, I'm sure it was Parkin where you had like these people in these weird like sunglass outfits giving the trophy. Not really sure what was going on there. But,
mate, did you see the picture of Bait with those two girls? I said, what is going on? This didn't look like a Copenhagen LAN. This looked like we were back in Russia. Like this, we were going back on some old events
LAN in
here.
Christiania, or
I messaged Kenzazor and I said, "Who are these two girls? Like, why are they in your photo? Are they to do with the team?" And he went, "Nope, someone from the organization." I told him, "Focus on the game. Don't get mixed up in any of that shit.
I remember those kinds of LAN events, like MSI Beat It in China used to have those kinds of things.
I'd say, from a perspective of LANs that will run really well, the guy who runs Urban Contenders moves like absolute mountains, and they do some really good stuff there. So I got to shout them out. And also, just when watching Roman Imperium, really good. Graphics are amazing. They have a really cool trophy, don't they? The little master thing. That's amazing. I think that's really cool. I kind of do wish we saw more uniqueness in cool trophies, because sometimes you get really bad ones. But but the Roman Imperium one is really, really cool, and I think they ran a really nice event. But
are they good for VRS? Is it like really good or meh?
They're not bad, and any LAN is going to be good. It's just, I mean, we essentially saw round robin die, kind of like pre 2025, like from post that EPL world where they had their.
It was because of multiple team draws that would be managed by round difference. I remember going to Copenhagen games in 4-man round robin groups, and essentially we ended up in a 3-man draw with Navi and Fnatic in our group. And we won on round difference and knocked both Navi and Fnatic out of the tournament.
Yeah, round robin is obviously...
No, or it was one of them. We were in the top. We were in a 3-way tie. And I think it was Fnatic or Navi were in discussions with the admins who would be knocked out for hours and hours.
But round robin is...
group and round robin.
It's not necessarily the best format. I think everyone kind of knows that. But you want to play more LAN matches in VRS. So if you have the opportunity, which round robin has, there you go. There's not really a way to change that either. And previously, at least from just observation, it always did seem like HLTV covered less round robin group stages. So TOs would typically do GSL. But that could just be not causation correlation, because GSL is just typically better anyway. I kind of would like to see a way to weight BO3s and BO1s. It's just like the issue is, say, for example, you made BO3s more valuable. A BO3 loss is then going to be more too. The issue you then get there is the risk reward, where TOs are then incentivized to have BO1s. So it's low risk, high LAN win gain. So you really can't touch it at all. And
let's not do that.
It's really awkward. So I'd like to see it. I don't think there's a good way they can do it. But as well, from a non-TO perspective as well, of who's putting on good events, I think a really cool thing from VRS is what we were talking about watching the Swedish broadcast. Like there's so many eyes now on all of these broadcasts, which is really cool. And some of these broadcasts are running really cool stuff, like Esports Studio. And they're running like a tier 1 caliber broadcast.
Yeah, they're really good. They're old. It's the I think some of the guys from like old DreamHack, Swedish DreamHack. They obviously ran like tons of events.
Separate from BME guys, right? They're not the same.
No, I think they're not the same.
Okay.
I might be wrong on this, but either way, they're doing a lot of online production with their stuff. They've had some really cool like stuff they've done where there was one clip like where one of the casters like I don't know, for some reason decided like he would like drink champagne from a bathtub if this team won, the Swedish team won on LAN. I think it was when Eyeballers won that Red Bull challenge. And then they started like a couple months after the stream with him in a bathtub drinking champagne before going live into a game.
I think Epic
they've done some really like, humorous, cool kind of stuff community-wise.
Epic LAN
Who said the Swedes are dead?
Yeah.
There you go. There we go. All right, and the last question, I wanted to do this one myself because I want to say Demps is sending the question in, but Demps also did a fantastic interview with Carrigan as like the exit interview from Bucharest into like talking about what happened at the major. So if no one saw that, they should definitely check that out. It was eye-opening, sad, heartbreaking in some ways when we're touching on all the FaZe stuff. But he asked you, Mischief. He says, how much RAM did Mischief melt through overuse in the course of his many simulations?
So I had to upgrade my rig and what is essentially now my server downstairs quite a lot pre all of these
You have
sims.
a server downstairs?
Yeah, essentially. I've got like a 24-core server. Because
you're living in another universe.
I use 16 cores alone for VRS sims. I've got 8 cores left for everything else. And that includes a 35,000 match scouting database. And this is all entirely separate with it's using a remaining cores.
And you just bought this yourself? It's just you?
Yeah. So I'm pretty out of pocket from VRS.
Yeah.
This obviously costs quite a bit. I haven't actually made a single dollar yet from VRS. And while teams have said, oh, we'll pay you, hopefully they will. And I'm sure they will. It's like some of these teams are really good and been great to talk to. But VRS, it's not necessarily a cheap game, is one way to put it.
Did you help any team that qualified for this major?
Yeah, I think a majority of the teams I spoke to made the major. Some teams that I spoke to and they kind of disagreed with the numbers or my suggestions. The only 2 who actually did that didn't make the major. So that's a decent bit of a CV there.
Karma.
Of course, as well, there were some teams that I talked to that didn't make the major. You could blame me potentially, or maybe the results in having a server. It's what it is. But I think of a quick count, and I'd probably have to properly check it. I think I probably spoke to like directly, some of them less than others, where they just quickly ask, should we be doing this? Should we not? Some I spoke to hugely. I think it's probably about 10, 11, 12-ish teams I probably spoke to.
Okay, you're going to give me a list of these teams, and I will message them, and I'm going to say, motherfuckers, put your hands in your pocket now and give this guy some money. Like, give him
I don't want to chase or bring out any bad acts from it. At the end of the day, like, I do enjoy VRS.
Hey, they just made a good
little
amount
bit
of
of
money,
a
my
thank
friend.
you tweet.
Yeah, you know.
Something, you know, like recognition.
Yeah.
You won't ask for it, you're too nice. I'd be like, pay up now, boys. You got
in
your
my
meal.
mind, like always, I'm going to view the sims and the predictions as quite easy. And it's why, like, say...
For you,
like,
it's easy, but it's not easy, mate. Let's be honest. It's not easy.
It's just...
Not
like,
at all.
I see some people in my tweet replies are like, oh, you should make a Ko-Fi. And I just look at what I've done. And in my mind, it's like, it's so... Like, to me, it's just mundane. I don't really think I've done much at all. And
you've done a lot. You've done a lot from serving not just like the community and the teams, but also the fans who desperately want to know how their teams are doing. People from their local countries who are following each and every step of the way as well. Like it's what you've done for these people in also fan service. Like look at how many people I see in your replies and they're like asking you, how's this team going to do? It's a completely irrelevant team for most people, but for them it's something important. And you still tell them, oh, this could be happening. This could be going down.
You have to understand that in the CS world, you've essentially, you know, written the Bible, rewritten it in a language that we can understand.
That's more Uknud, but yeah.
No, but
in some sense it is.
Yeah.
The difference between you two, right, and there's nothing wrong with his work at all, but some, I would say, from looking at it from an outside perspective, I'll read his stuff. But some fans would not read his stuff because it is so long, yeah? They don't have that attention span. We're in TikTok, Instagram, real generation. So they look at his tweet and they go, and switch off.
Interesting, but too much.
Yeah. But like yours is probably a bit more digestible for like the fan of a team who just wants to get the hit information and understand, you know?
I think for my predictions, I need to start having like a Subway Surfer box in one of the bottom corners just so everyone stays engaged.
Stay there, yeah. That's exactly it. Just run a TikTok at the same time on some graphic of yours as we go through it all, no problem. Jesus Christ, so you have a server and everything. That's insane, bro. That's insane.
It's essentially free heating because it does run hot.
But it also probably costs you a ton of electricity. You live in the UK.
There's upsides and downsides to that for sure.
Oh my God. Well, Mischief, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the insight once again. It was a pleasure to break this all down with you. Make sure you're getting some more rest. Hopefully some offers will come your way. Hopefully some teams do give you the recognition, the payment you deserve, even though you're not asking for it. You are too humble for that. I am projecting my opinion onto you and your way. Anything you want to end with before we go into the next season?
It's been a pleasure to be here. congrats on my kid and happy birthday as
Thank
well.
you.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's been really
There's a
fun
lot
coming on.
going on.
I've got a better camera this time, and my hair is
You
a lot less
upgraded.
atrocious, so I'm pretty happy.
Hey, when I saw the new camera when you came back, I went, okay, he's podcast ready now. He's podcast ready. We're seeing the improvements. Server, camera, everything going on. No, really, I do appreciate it, Finn. Thank you so much once again. And
Thank you
I'm
so
sure
much.
we'll be keeping in touch with you across future episodes, across the rest of the season. But now you get to enjoy watching Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I'm probably going to sleep for the next week, if not
That's
2.
deserved.
But
That's deserved.
yeah,
Do
it'll
it,
be
man.
nice to relax a bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank
All
you
right,
so
I'm on-
much. Been lovely. I've actually learned a ton, even just
Yeah.
every time I talk to you, like I learn a shit ton about the VRS system and how to actually format it into my brain a little bit more, because obviously last time it was buckets, now a little bit more deeper and
Yeah,
more
now-
complexity is added to it.
Now it's often Valve made a mistake not hiring Messioso, and here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a huge thank you once again to Mischief for joining us. We still got the rest of the episode to go, and what we'll be covering in that is we're going to go over some of the recent news, one of the rumors in there as well, then doing our IEM Rio Preview. Rio, obviously, big hype event coming into just before we get in towards this major journey that everyone will be talking about up until that. So first of all, on recent news, Devilwalk, NIP signed xKacpersky in a permanent deal. Now, I'm going to look at this in 2 ways. Massive win for NIP. Yeah, absolutely huge. Obviously, I got to look at this that he was obviously on loan from or transfer from ENCE, right? But then ENCE obviously capped their roster and said they want to go back to Finland. So, sure, they get rid of him, right? And try and make good on that transfer. But I will say, this is a NIP that didn't make the major. This is now who he's looked in with. I don't know what he was thinking, but there was a lot of maybe he didn't understand how good he was, but I'm 100% sure some big teams will be looking at him in particular for next season. We said about this.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think for a long time now, xKacpersky has been kind of viewed from the entire community, I'm sure other orgs and owners as well, as one of the most prominent talents we have. That it feels tier 1 ready. He feels like you can just pick him up, put him in a team, and he's gonna start delivering.
Exactly.
So immense value for NIP to sign him. And you're essentially wondering, is he gonna be locked in with these high buyouts that we talked about with Finn on some players? Probably, because as I see it, NIP project it's dead without him right now. As
Exactly. And that's probably why NIP was so we want to sign him, right? So remember, he was on Young Ninjas for a very small stint, then went to ENCE, did very well on ENCE, and now he's on NIP again as the main roster. But it is this. You're exactly right, mate. They are dead without him. The Wrinkle signing was good at one point. He slowed down a bit. He's had his problems. I think he's got more consistent. We look at it, right? It's him and xKacpersky, but I mean, xKacpersky is doing the heavy lifting every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
No, he's for sure someone that you wonder if it was the right time for him to agree a deal like this.
Let me see if he has an agent or something. Maybe he didn't have someone guiding him on this.
But it might have also been
no, he's represented by Pro Players GG.
It might have also been, a pre-signed agreement with the loan deal with ENCE, whatever. There might have been things.
Yeah, good
that.
point. Very good point.
But it seems like a rotten kind of place for xKacpersky in some sense, when you can see all of that potential and you see a lot of these big teams, big names, where I could see him slot in a number of different top teams. I could see him definitely work in a Furia. Like he could even slot in a team like that, and I could see him making that team better. a Navi even, to some extent. So there's like very big name teams that I could even today just pick and slot them in. He would save mouse. He would, like there's a bunch of ways that this could have gone for his career. And I'm wondering if he's making the right decision sticking with NIP.
Well, the thing is, right, we're going to know in a couple of months after the major, transfer windows will go up, right? But someone's going to have to pay a lot of money for him now because of that. And we know Walks have been spending less on that big buyout, and that means he then could be stuck. So it depends what he has signed, like what this agreement is, right? What the numbers would be. But I mean, this is put him from a hot prospect to like a medium until we know like what they're actually asking. And I'm sure that information, someone will find it, someone will put it out there. But I think this is a massive win for NIP, not such a big win for xKacpersky. Sadly.
I completely agree. What else to say? I mean,
no, that's it. That's it.
It's probably not the right season to sign, like when you're a prospect, by the way, to sign a contract mid-season before a major. Usually you'd want to wait until after. We talk a lot about what Flamesy did when he was in OG. We kind of just waited out his contract. He were in a position where he could decide himself from a multiple altitude of... He's kind of in the same position, xKacpersky, as Flamesy was. Playing in a little bit of a lower team, making headway. He's stable. He was always, going to slot into a better team. And he got the pick.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The next bit is a rumor, and we're not really sure, like, on how good this rumor is. I'm not going to say it's like something kind of I want to be bought into or believing, but I'm just going to mention it because it's a funny one. It's from a company called Flank Esports. By the way, this is nothing I've heard. It's not even a rumor I would start to believe in. But it says, FaZe targeting, I'll just do the translation. According to sources reaching Flank, FaZe is interested in Aurora's AWP player, woxic.
There seems some like Turkish Twitter page that has quite a lot of followers, though.
But I'll say this, right? It's a downgrade for woxic when you're on a top 5, top 6 team in the world. Yeah. It may be nice for woxic. I think woxic's best performances was under Carrigan on that Mouse lineup. Sure. But if you're woxic, do you want to go to FaZe? Not really, right?
I don't actually know what Aurora players earn, but I would assume that they earn probably a little bit less than some of the equal teams next to them.
I think when they joined Aurora, they got up to salaries that were more like CS salaries.
Yeah.
So I feel like I don't think their salaries would be that bad. Obviously, maybe not as much as a Twist and a Carrigan and stuff like that. This would be pure speculation.
I obviously there's sense to the rumor because Broke is benched. They need to find a replacement. They're probably, looking at different options. There's a connection with Carrigan since the past. voxic has been a lot better in this new shaped Aurora with Soulfly than I've seen him in the past, where it's been a little bit more up and down.
You just said Brokey's benched. Did I miss this?
Yeah, Brokey's benched.
What? Where did you see this?
Didn't? Is this April Fool's I've gone on?
Yeah, you're bro.
Okay.
You are.
Okay.
I'm thinking. I know I've been on Daddy's Views, but I mean,
I just assumed it was true. To be fair.
All right. So what we know is we listen to my sources that I get from people. Devilwalk's taking his sources from fucking Twitter.
Yeah, 100%. But it's still, even if it's not official, let's just play with the thought.
He should be benched.
He should be benched. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So this was just you projecting.
Either way, it was information I had in my heart all the time. They just poked the right spot.
I'll put my own. You know, if you want to believe Twitter, some amazing, very smart and genius person tweeted, Imagine merging FaZe and BC Game, Carrigan, Twist,
must
Frozen,
be a Twitter
Simple, Electronic, Taz as
I'm
coach.
blocking him right away.
This is not a rumor. This was just me saying, imagine that. People do react crazy when you put this kind of stuff into the world. But
Yeah.
I mean, some people are liking it because they obviously, if this was 2022, this would look amazing. You know, if this was pre-war, Simple Electronics still on Na'Vi in their form and this phase, that looks great, right? Everything looks like this could be amazing. But that would be my way of saving it. I don't know who buys who though. Does FaZe buy Simple Electronic or does BC Game buy FaZe Core?
Man, I don't want to comment on this drivel of yours.
Wow. Yeah, mine is complete random. Like mine's not even a rumor. We can't even call it that. But that's really all the news. We've already touched on the VRS. We know what teams are going to Clone. We know Clone is for sure going to be epic. I'm hoping ESL put on one hell of a show for all of that. And then we come to Rio. We're back in Rio. I'm trying to think, when was the last time we went to Rio? Because Rio's an important stop, at least within South America's, where we've had it over and over again.
2024, could that be it?
Oh, I was there then. 2020. Yes, I think I've been at every Rio. I won't be at this Rio, but I wasn't invited. But I've been at every Rio up until that, from the major to the smaller ones. I have been there. I've done all the Rios, and I'll just say, obviously, very biased, but the Brazil crowd, the Brazil people, it's amazing. It's energy. It's a lot of hype and fun. Like for me personally, in my role, what I do, talking with fans, doing these little interview hits, going on the stage, every time it's amazing. I'll say that when Na'Vi won it last time, the big difference was when I look at the major, even though it was a major in Rio, they did upset me. They did upset the community with the crowd only being good for Furia.
Yep.
But then when we had the smaller Rio and we went back, it was actually epic because we saw people enjoying just Counter-Strike. People enjoyed just not even see, like Furia made playoffs, but I mean, it not going all the way, and we didn't see empty seats completely, right? So for me, Rio now has stepped up, and that means for me that I would expect it to be better once again.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we got a pretty good selection of teams as well. Pretty stacked, top heavy.
Dude, it's a crazy set of teams. Crazy set of teams. And also teams that came through a closed qualifier as well. So we've got a North American one, a European one. Where did Hotu come from? They came through an Asian
close
one,
qualifier, European close qualifier with
Europe. So there was 2
Gentle
slots
Mage.
for Europe. 2 slots for Europe then.
Yeah.
No slots for Asia. Okay. And then the Americas as well, which Red Canids was the only surprising team I have to be there. Like I could see Hotu, Gentlemates, Passion making these 3 qualifiers. Red Canids was just the only one where it stands out to me. Like I'm shocked and surprised they made it.
Yep. I'd agree on that.
And they beat Bestia in the final. 9Z at that point maybe were not so hot. They ended up 5th to 6th. Obviously, by the way, these qualifiers were back in January. So this is a long, long time ago of working all of that out. We spoke about this a bit with Mischief at the same time. A lot of teams benefited who would not really be invited if it was anytime soon. Your Liquids, your Baits, your 3D Maxes. They don't really deserve a spot there, but this will be a big event for them before the major, So
it's also kind of an interesting event to review, even from like our normal predictions perspective. A lot of unknowns, with obviously, I mean, the big ones for me is Spirit, Passion UA against higher tier opposition. Obviously, how is Mouse's form going into like?
Yep. I'm still worried. I'm still worried. You said you weren't worried before.
Well, I've redacted that statement last episode. But going up against Art and Legacy in the first game, if you're not mentally stable,
it's nightmare
that
fuel.
Could be
Absolute nightmare fuel.
Really rough game.
Dude, I'm glad you mentioned it because when I looked down the opening matchups, I was like, okay, they lost the 9Z 2-1, right? You're going up against a stronger South America's team who you can't guess what they're going to do. They're loving playing with Art right now. There is a redemption of Legacy to grind their way back up in the rankings, right? They're doing it once again, even with the change of IGL. Art is redeeming himself. Art's Redeemer in Rio. Could you imagine it? They qualify the playoffs. They beat Mouse. They then sit there and take a picture in front of Christ Redeemer. There you go. I've logically put this all together.
So should we go through all the teams like we normally do?
Yeah, let's go a little bit over some of the teams, right? Because start with the top team, Vitality. Again, they are the favorites. There's no one close to them right now. But also, imagine this. When the event is this stacked, if they do win it, they will win the Grand Slam. Back-to-back Grand Slams, doing it fast, don't need to go to it. Because remember, if they don't win it here, let me just look down events. They would have to win it in Atlanta, where the best team they're going to face is Na'Vi and everyone else is not anywhere close to it. It's all tier 2 teams. Yeah. Well, Astra's maybe not tier 2, but I mean, Foot probably tier 1.5 as well. But I mean, it's not your Falcons and everyone there. They're going to Astana, right? So we're all in agreement, right? There's not much more to say. We can't just enjoy Vitality anymore.
I mean, the interesting part about this event isn't Vitality, if they're going to win or not. I think, for me, the interesting part about top CS right now is who is going to establish themselves. I think Na'Vi is number 2, for sure. They're like solid in, but they're still in this weighing kind of
still got to prove themselves,
where Falcons Furia can bump them out at any point. With them finding some form. So for me, it's a little bit about the middle of the pack. Aurora, Mouse, Spirit, G2. Where do they all slot in? Because I feel like a lot of these teams have had different issues and different problems throughout the season. And now it's coming up to the major and you want to see some form. You want to see what they're building towards. You want to see them have any sort of chance to, either give the fans hope or give us as viewers, like, are we going to get someone that can challenge Vitality for next major, or are we going to get another 99.9% Vitality prediction from the community? I want to see where everyone is.
I will say that as of right now, as we're talking, 7th of April 2026, I feel like the gap is too big, and I just think teams are fighting for this second place with a chance to take a map from Vitality or push them around a bit.
It's 2013 all over again with NIP.
Yes, it can always be broken, right? That's definitely. I'm not saying it can't be, but I mean, the gap is huge. Like, we are in that position again right now, and as they're all still fighting for this spot, right? They don't have the chops when it comes to facing Vitality. That's just the place we're in right now. But let's keep looking down the rest of the teams in there. So the second team is Na'Vi. Na'Vi, obviously now, VRS, second in the world. Do you think they're second in the world?
100%.
They went from a 6 to 8 stage 2 placing, just about making it at Pro League, to winning Pro League, and then going on a great run during Rotterdam. 2-0 Aurora, 2-1 Paravision. Could have won Anubis against Vitality. I think Apex even DM'd me, by the way. Let me see what he said. I was talking with Apex. Where did he message me? I need to.
Why do you find that? The thing that I find interesting about Na'Vi, and I actually thought about this earlier today. Even when Na'Vi were quote unquote bad.
Yep.
They were still consistent and they were still competitive in almost every matchup they played. Didn't matter if they played Vitality, Furia, Falcons, maybe Spirit, where they're like Achilles heel to some degree.
Always. Yeah. They didn't know how to deal with that. But that's gone.
They were consistent. Whilst I look at other teams, like Furia is a great example. They are great when everything, picks up, slots in, Molodoi is on form, and everyone seems to be almost interconnected in some way. But they have those really inconsistent bits where they almost look flat in games. We can speak about Falcons. Not that good in playoff, even though they're a great team. Aurora, I mean, they're getting more and more exciting to watch, to be fair.
It's better now with Soulfly.
Yeah.
Despite what people say about his stats and stuff, I still love this edition.
But the fact that Navi have always been consistent no matter what position in the
It's the
ranking
system.
they've been.
It's the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got this Apex thing. So Apex said, I was listening to your podcast, so he's still watching. Shout out Dan one time. Much love, bro. He said, besides Anubis, it was not close. On D2, it went close. We didn't want to close it before while we had in the 12-4 lead. You know, like he was just saying, because I said Dust 2 could have been there, right? It was a dream world of Dust 2 being there. But I mean, it got to a point where it was a potential. But I agree. The Anubis was the one that was close. So it could have just been a map at best. But Na'Vi is still in a good position. For Furia, this is going to be interesting because the last two events, Pro League, 9th to 11th, yeah, even Cluj-Napoca, 5th to 8th, you went from second place Krakow to getting worse. Rotterdam, 7th to 8th, yeah, you don't make it through the playoffs. This is Rio. Now, for Molodoi and Yakinda, yeah, they're going to want to feel the crowd and feel all that stuff, but it's another level of pressure for the Brazilians. And right now, they're making mistakes. The communication isn't there at times. The understanding of what to do on maps isn't there at times. This is their major without being a major. This is super important for them. Yes, they'll probably make playoffs, but like for me, it's got to be grand finals into a trophy kind of performance again, especially considering where they've been at. And also, they've had a good amount of time now. You know, like there's a nice break.
Like if there's any event that kind of skyrocket their chances into a major, this is the event where they should be picking up that energy from. But it's hard to predict that. It's hard to predict where they will be and how motivated they are. You know, their honeymoon kind of period at the start where everything was great, no matter if they
had a
lost
long
or won,
honeymoon.
everyone was impressed. Now they're in a different kind of set of expectation. So I wonder, you know, how the well-being of that team is going to end up if they don't find the form they've established in that honeymoon period.
You know what I also want to see is remember I told you I was speaking to Molodoi at events and I was talking to him about when he's watching demos and he was looking at how he shouldn't over repeat here and do this. His gameplay has changed so much that he's trying to evolve and adapt. Now I want to see him go for them confidence, no bullshit. Like I want to see a bit of the old Molodoi back. I need to see that. He's not had bad ratings if you look down it, right? I think it was like I will not lie. 1.18, I think it was for Rotterdam. It was 1.14. Okay, 1.14. He obviously was doing much better in the past, right? And then struggling in some playoffs. We saw and we spoke about that. But I need to see the flashy Molodoi back. I need to see him hitting some of those shots and having that confidence to go for it. I don't know what's changed other than him reviewing himself and trying to adapt from it. But that's the Molodoi you want to see back if you want to see them get a win because xKacpersky is still doing up there. Yuri's, by the way, has had the biggest drop-off. Yeah. Yuri last year was something crazy. We kept saying, right? Oh, we're getting the best of Yuri and xKacpersky together finally.
I thought he was one of the best anchors of last year. And yeah, I agree. He has dropped off massively. And obviously, you're gonna need, if you have a crazy AWPer like Molodoi playing his style, taking a lot of repicks, putting, you know, sometimes automatically winning the round on his own. Sometimes he's going to put your team in a deficit where you need these stable anchors to be able to hold down and still give you a great chance of winning the rounds when he puts you in difficult spots.
Be good for a multi-kill and a hold, right?
So, yeah, it's a shocking drop-off from Yuri. And hopefully something they can figure out for this event.
Definitely. Falcons. So obviously Krakow was not enjoyable for them. Top 8. Cluj top 8 as well, where obviously Cluj they're expecting to do a lot better, you know, considering all of that. And actually having an 8-team playoffs. Rotterdam, they made playoffs and they lost 2-0 to Paravision. I'm not saying losing to Paravision is bad, but I mean, this is now multiple times you've been rolled on by Paravision.
And actually, Tessus in this Falcons team has grown a lot for me. Like, I feel like he looks like to be the best player in that team.
How so?
I think that he has obviously really, really bad rolls.
Yeah.
I think he bails them out a lot of times. I've seen games where he starts off having, 13-1, and they put him in really awkward positions and he just bailed them out. Kind of like in the way that we talked about Yuri last year. I felt like Tessus have been the guy bailing them out from his early mistakes in games. And I mean, if you look at some of the like recent events that they've played, obviously against NRG, he was the second best rated player. Against Navi, he was the best rated player with a 127 rating. And almost pulled through a victory in that one. He's in the middle of the pack, but still a 124 rating against Tai Lu. Furia, he was in middle of the pack. At the middle of the pack against Paravision, but it's still like it's very consistent, good performances from a player who has almost no breathing space in this lineup compared to the rest of the team.
Doesn't have the ego either, by the way. You don't see him going for some of them crazy plays. He's not that problem on that side as well. I think for Falcons, this should be like, obviously they in their minds are going to be aiming for trophies, right? And that's where they're going with this. But this needs to be a minimum semi-final event for me to be happy with where they're going and start ramping up towards the major.
But the weird position you're put in now for Falcons? They're obviously ranked 4th fourth in this group of teams, probably when they got the invite. That means that they're grouped with Vitality in the group.
Yeah.
So you're probably second and third is probably the best positions you can be in terms of consistently making playoff. So they're in a tight position because they have some really, really tough teams in their group. And this is the time that they need to start showing up because, pressure is mounting, expectations, and from themselves and the disappointment they've kind of gone through time and time again with this lineup. It's starting to mount, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't deal well with pressure. Aurora next. I'm going to ignore their whole little attempt at Digital Crusade Draculan, I'm still not sure why they went for it. To me, none of it made sense, but they're good. They got their stage 3 invite. That's all that matters. They are very consistent right now. They are very strong right now. Soulfly is being used in the right way. We heard some more things about like fans not thinking that this hand thing is a real thing, but I already gave my piece on it last episode that from what I understood and from what I know, yeah. This is a real thing. This is something he had with before. He's had this for a long time. So it's like, this is not a thing where I look at where I say it's some bullshit. But I will say they have now put themselves as a consistent semi-final team, and probably with this field of teams because it's stronger than EPL.
Started to actually perform in playoffs. That's the biggest thing.
And they're getting over a hump. They're kind of trading places with what Maus were.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I expect Aurora in the grand finals, but I'm expecting another deep run from them.
Yeah, I agree. I like Aurora. I like what we're seeing from them. I think they've gained another level with Soulfly, and it's not because Soulfly is necessarily incredible. What I think it is he fits what they need.
It's what they asked for finally. Yeah.
So in that sense, I think he just makes the team better in that sense.
Agree. For Maus, we kind of touched on it loosely, but I mean, this has to be where they reset. This has to be like they haven't now played since the 21st of March. I'm hoping they got a good amount of time off as needed, right? To reset, get back on the horse.
A lot of weight put on Maus's games right now. I feel like
everyone's watching. Everyone's watching again. It's like before you were watched when you got to playoffs because like we knew you were going to make a mess up there. But now this little hill has broken and now we're in a group stage territory of problems. It was just one event, yeah? Like
I
Okay,
still think they were gonna be good. I mean, they are a good team. There's no doubt about that. They've
true.
had, you know, a rough period last, what is it, month
Yeah,
ish.
since EPL.
Now with the practice, getting back to the routines, fixing a lot of things, it could be a blessing in disguise. I know for a fact when I've, worked with teams and coached teams, sometimes it is very, very healthy to have these really bad periods because it means, okay, we've relaxed too much. We need to put in the work. And as long as everyone buys into that and don't fall flat and give up, you usually come back really strong after it.
Yeah,
But we'll
I don't.
see. It
I,
depends all about who you are as a person, how much you want to bite into the sour apple, as we say in Swedish.
yeah, I'm not going to beat down on them anymore, but I think they know themselves. It's not just. It's going to have to be a good playoff run here for them, minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum. Then
Spirit.
Spirit, yeah, Spirit, another team that is falling from grace. Remember, they got a stage 2 invite for the major. They're not in stage 3 anymore.
But this storyline can be the craziest one. Because if Spirit magically do well now, all eyes are on Hallie. All eyes are on Hallie for not being there at this event.
Or is it confirmed he's not there?
He is not there. They're using Softic. He's gonna
What?
miss 2 events.
What was the reason?
It
where
was
are you
on
reading this?
HLTV.
Hallie to miss IEM Rio and
yes. So Softic, obviously a player that has both
he's
played.
battling certain health issues. Oh no. Okay, that's not fun, and I feel very bad for him. He's going through the health issues on it. That
But
is
Softic
painful
knows
for him.
this squad very well.
Yes.
He's obviously coached Donk in the past, I guess.
Well, it depends on how long has he been coached for. Let's have a look.
Since
He's
July.
he's been there a long time. He's been there a long time. He's been doing the Spirit. So yeah, he's seen Zontix. He's seen Donk. Yeah, he'll be aware of what's needed. And also, does this so there's 2 ways that Hallie can do this. Here's the system. Here's what I expect from you. Do this. Or Softic comes in and says, Magic's cool how you want. Bit more freedom. Play like this. That gets interesting. That gets very interesting.
Softic has a very, a pretty big wealth of experience, both as a player and a coach for Spirit Academy.
Yep.
I would assume that he's going to work in his way, the way that suits him, with obviously adapting a little bit to what the team needs are.
Yep.
I don't see it being the same. I don't think you can just coach the same in some ways. So it's going to be a little of a Softic twist, and I'm up for it.
Gonna be exciting. Be exciting. I like this. We said about it being if it was Hallie's system or not, if that's the thing that's holding them back right now. So we'll potentially get some answers with it. From Spirit, we go to Legacy. I'm liking what we're seeing from Legacy.
We're going Legacy or G2?
Oh, sorry, I missed G2. Oh, my bad. I started opening up tabs in a different order. Thank you very much, Devilwalk.
No worries.
So we go to G2. They were looking rough. They still aren't looking pretty. They had 3rd place at Roman Imperium. They did win the stake ranked event from Star Ladder. So beating Bet Boom Game Legion and Bet Boom again in the final being notable. Still a team that I'm not convinced will make playoffs. Still a team that is a far away from where they are, needed to be. But Nerds is the one everyone's looking at. It's what everyone's talking about, right? Saw was talking about him. Sampire was talking about him. He was up there at the top for that event with Heavy God. And Heavy God had been having a bit of a struggle. So this is positive signs. But now this is the real test, right? Because these other events don't even compare.
But I still like what G2 have done. They've kind of went to a lot of events, grinded out officials, and it's a very good sign that even though, yes, they came 3rd at Roman Imperium Cup again with a loss against Batboom, it's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins and 1 loss at an event, and the other one clean through and taking revenge on BetBoom in that final. It's still signs of progress for me, and it's good to get nerds into the team in this way. It's like straight into officials. They kind of fix things as they go and seemingly have made things work consistently as things have kind of run through in this small tournaments. I like
Yeah.
their approach, straight into the deep end for nerds.
It is. But nerds will thrive under Saw. I said this from the beginning at least. So I'm fully on that. That's what I'm happy with.
We agreed on that.
Nice. So then we come on to Legacy, who I tried to skip ahead of. 15th in the VRS rankings right now. They're not having the best time at PGL Bucharest, I'll be honest. But they did come straight to Bucharest from playing in South America again, a lot of back and forth, and going through all that. It's still an exciting and interesting team to me.
This is a team where if you look down the results, even when they were the best, I think, when they won this event, they won 13 maps and lost 9 maps. It's consistent.
It was always
losing.
2-1. Always 2-1.
And this is just the way Legacy plays Counter-Strike.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to, see them have completely clean runs like Vitality. That's not really viable in the way. It's more about waking up. Am I hot today? Let's see. And see what you get.
Yep.
I think they're one of the scariest opponents to play against, especially if you're a top team.
And especially as they're playing Mouse in the opening game. So one to watch. If you're not going to see the games, because maybe the time zone don't work for you, look at that game. That's definitely a game you need to look at for sure. Who's next from here? We've got
3D Max.
3D Max. So 3D Max.
A little bit on these guys. We haven't revealed that part, because that's in the next video that we're gonna do for the pod. PGL.
Oh yeah. I was thinking, I'm like, what the hell is he on about? What did I miss now? No, yeah, you're right. They did make the major though, right? So that is a positive for them. That is where they can be happy. That's where things are not as bad, right?
But I'm still.
They don't know. Wait, have I lost this again?
Didn't they lose out on it?
Oh yeah, that's what they lost, bro. I thought, because I'm looking at their ranking on here now, and it says they're 16th. Yeah. So they ended up in for the major rankings, 18th or 19th.
Probably. I don't even know where to get this back info.
You can click on the
here.
Yeah, and then go back on the dates. So we were right to be down on them. Yeah, we were right to be down on them. We were just talking about it with Mischief as well. It is hard for me to track all of this right now. I am just about sleeping and with baby. So
crucial event.
The Parkin thing didn't work out for them. This is basically they're getting this invite. They're lucky to be there. Oh yeah, I said that at the beginning. I even said that they're lucky to be there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm back on track. I'm back with it all.
Brain online again.
I need some uploads, some downloads, some other stuff. I need some sleep. But yeah, for 3D Max, not going to count them out, because this is going to matter so much to them. This is everything to them,
Yeah.
This is so important to them because, they might be going to, for example, they're probably going to be, they're going to be at CAC. Did they accept Astana? No, they might not be in invite range.
But still, an interesting team. When they made the change to Misuta, I said that, we've had even longer back episodes where we talked about the problems. They don't have that consistent star player. I feel like they have that in Misuta now. He's definitely, firepower wise and X factor wise, a lot more star player-ish compared to what the rest of their lineup has been.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing it on a more consistent basis for the team right now. And I think that's why we see, obviously some results like Imperial Bucharest, which we haven't covered, win against Paravision. That's probably a statement of that. So an exciting team to start to follow again. The question is just how exciting.
Yeah, I didn't see any of their games, so I can't comment on if they get excited or not. It was still all like past 3D Max. If it's still the same style of all in, then it's limited to how far it goes.
Yep.
Next team is Bait. Now, obviously, making the major, doing well at that Park and Challenger event, the crazy event with so many games they had to play, all these best of ones into best of threes. They did lose to 3D Max there, but then also won against them when it was in the playoff stage. Sizzy is still not to the, like, I hyped him up. He's still not there, but he's still so young. He's 16. You know, he's trying to make his magic work. He's on loan from Spirit Academy. This is someone they seem to be happy working with. What they want to see done.
What's his rating in these? In Parken, 106.
MPL was still the beast. Kenzazor was doing great work. Was it okay in Parken or not?
So, in Parken, he was their lowest rated player with a 106 rating.
But
Alex
remember,
had a 115. Yeah.
They're still, like, remember when they told me, they said, it's his mechanics, it's his, like, individual skills. He's one of these young, new age players. Like, that's what they're still believing in. So, yeah, he's got all that. But right now, he's still got so much to learn to adapt to what high-tier Counter-Strike is.
Oh, welcome to a game of opening rounds against Natus Vincere.
Yeah, and they lost to Navi at, what, is it EPO?
But I'm not buying into this bait just yet.
It's fair. I would not buy stocks in them.
I think...
Rotterdam. Rotterdam, they lost to Navi.
I don't really see them being in playoff. Let's put it that way.
No, definitely not. 100% not. Their focus is just the major and playing these events as they go through it all. So then we come on to Liquid. And, dude.
Top 2 hate watch. Right now.
It feels bad to just keep shitting on them. But, like, 4th place at Roman Imperium Cup. 9th to 12th only beating NIP, which obviously did save them for the major qualification. 7th to 8th, losing to Sashi and M80 at Draculan. Also, the M81 hurts because that's your, like, rival regionally. I know they just got Malbs in. I said I'll give them some time. But, I mean, come on. Like, I know they just made... By the way, if this saves them, sorry, but if this saves them, if they don't make a change after the major because they made the Malbs change, that's another error. That's like another blunder. And I've not even seen them play the major. I'm talking way in advance.
I mean, I think the weird part when you look at Liquid, you know, you look at them and this org, this team, they should be, you know, maybe potential when we talked about them would be like a top 10 team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're barely making top 10 in Americas.
They were just there. Just there.
Because I would even say they're not even in the top 10 in Americas.
That's fair.
I think Bestia and Passions probably, I'd put them ahead of them. Which is, you know, kind of tells the story of where we put Liquid.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, it is what it is. I don't know what to think.
Another thing as well, right? I wonder how it is for someone like Elige, who, by the way, Elige is their standout player. Elige is the star. Elige is a phenomenal player in the right environment. He had a 0.97 rating at Draculan, but he is also someone who really cares about the small details on setup and stats. And, like, I don't think that's a good LAN for him to go to, you know?
Probably not.
I don't think he's ready to go down to that level and play these LANs. Like, that's not for him. But they might be in that situation if things keep going this badly. It does bring us quite nicely into our next team, Passion. So Passion competed at the same event as Liquid. 4th place there, 2nd place at Urban Rigger. If they'd won it, right, they would have gone to the major. They would have been over Liquid. So that's going to sting for them. This is another team where they're looking at this as this could be their actual major. I'm still not sure what to make of this because like Senzu is performing really well and so is Try, but then Kvem still now seems out of it compared. It felt like Kvem was better before these changes.
Yes, but I think for Passions, I have patience. I didn't expect them to make these changes to go into this major. I felt like that was a long shot.
Okay.
Because they've only been there a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that was a little bit too soon. So I'm sure that Passions kind of looked at this as well to some extent, that if we make the major, great. If not, it's not a big issue. For me, it's about building this team up, and I see them growing. I see them getting better. They're exciting to watch with Sensu. And I think they're going to be a better team than the complexity / Passions core have been in the past.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Gentlemates is actually here that we haven't seen in a long time, right? They did qualify through the closed qualifier for Europe alongside Hot2.
Also a fun team to watch.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Very loud. But still, back-to-back not making the major before they were quite close. They're in a position where they're battling at some of these lands, by the way. 2 grand finals against Hot2 at lands. Istanbulan. Istanbulan. That's a great name. Look at their match page. Istanbulan 2026.
Istanbulan.
Yeah. I love it. And then second place at Roman Imperium. Didn't do too well at the BC Game Masters. I expect them to do better at Stake, by the way. The Star Series event or Star Ladder event. It's not Star Series, sorry. I expect them to do better there. But they'll have a tough time in Rio. I don't expect too much from them. I expect them to be fighting a lot, be high energy, great camera shots. Probably not going to hit too hard when it actually comes in the server.
They can upset a team or two. Let's see. Oof. Where are they? They can beat in their group. They could definitely shock a Spirit in bad form, I think.
Okay. Next, Hot2 with Norbert. That's all you need to know. Norbert is on the team. Mo is coaching. Now, we've actually started to see more and more of these guys. They're still very up and down. Like, they've had peaks where we were hyped about them during EPL. Then, obviously, they go out of not playing some of these big events. Now, they're 49th in the world rankings. They're not at the major. Like, it seems like a team that can have moments, but there's
very
no
hot
consistency.
And cold. Like, Hot2.
Hot2, hot and cold. I was going to try and make something right there. That's it. That's what we got for them. Boy, it's getting too late for this. All right, last team, Red Canids. They made it here through a qualifier somehow, some way. Kind of unexpected.
Bit of a mix of rejects in a sense. Does that make sense?
Cowards from Pain, Drop from MIBR, Davideus, Old Pain. Che Jesus, where did he play before? He was on a major team last. Well. He was on Imperial. He was on Imperial.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have no idea who Ren2 is. Ren2, I do not know. No idea on this guy.
Ren2.
We're going to Ren2, the apartment over there.
Sounds like renting in Finnish. Ren2.
All right, sorry, I'm taking breaks because babies. Sorry.
And that's completely fine and valid. Baby comes first, even in All About Counter-Strike.
Oh, yes.
But let's quickly run through some of the matchups, right? So we got Vitality opening game against Red Canids. I cannot see any world where we say anything other than Vitality from both of us.
You know, I'm going to not throw a crazy one in this one. It is definitely Vitality. So that's a banger. Vitality in again.
Okay. Second matchup is Gentlemates versus G2.
I'm going to go G2 with Sunpius absolutely destroying his countrymen and actually performing beyond belief on some like crazy rating.
Okay. I think that's
Like, if he's going to do anything in this whole tournament, this is the game. This is the game. But do you know what I'll say? It's not going to be easy for him. Like,
I don't think it's going to be easy for them either. But I think G2 have still the consistency where they should be able to eke out the win. Even though I probably think it's going to be 2 maps, or 3 maps, I mean.
I'll say it this way. Martinez is the better AWPer.
Yeah.
Pius is probably going to be more motivated with a better team behind him to really just bring the pain.
Agreed.
That's how I think it'll happen. Next one
is Spirit versus Liquid.
If it was anyone else that said there's more of a chance, but Spirit will win this even without Hallie being there. Even without Donk playing crazy.
I will also pick Spirit. Interesting 4th matchup with 3D Max versus Falcons.
Ooh. Okay. I'm still picking Falcons because it makes sense, right? And it is a group stage game. It's not playoffs. But also, it's just against 3D Max. Like, if they had a tougher opponent in there slightly, I could give something else maybe happening. But they should be fine.
I think Falcons group stage, I'll always go with Falcons.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off the prediction on the next one. Bait versus Na'Vi. I'm going to pick Na'Vi. I think they are the 2nd best team in the world. They're way too consistent. Bait, nowhere near.
What do you mean, Devilwalk? You are wrong. There is no way that Bait will lose.
Clip this.
No, there's not even a conversation. It can maybe be a game that gets close. It can maybe be a game that goes 3 maps, but it will be a game that Na'Vi wins.
And this is the spicy one. Legacy versus Mouse. I am going to pick Legacy. I think it's a tough opening game for Mouse.
Yeah.
Legacy can definitely... It's a real test mentally for Mouse. It's a tough one to bolster. They could end up going into a trap where they kind of maybe anti-strat Legacy too much, where you anti-strat people who play very...
Anti-strat what? What are you anti-stratting?
Exactly. Can't anti-strat someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. The round changes in his head depending on the spawn location.
They play very reactive. They play aggressive. Yeah. If you kind of fall back and stumble a little bit, they're going to take advantage of that. So I could see them putting a win out of Mouse.
I'll join you. You know, I will join you. I'm going to make it boring, but I'll join you because they've already lost the 9Z. So unless something crazy changes in Mouse, I'm going for Legacy as well.
All right. Furia Passions.
Oof. I love how you always say passions because you like the passions, but it's passion. Just want to be clear.
But it's like saying
passion UA.
Well, a passion just feels wrong. You just say passion. It feels wrong.
Because you don't have any passion for passion.
I have some passion for them.
I like put your name on it then. Put your name on it. They're going to be Furia.
Okay, I'll predict passion.
No, give us the real prediction. Don't even toy with me.
Okay, my real prediction is I actually do think Passion has a chance to have a shocker. I think that Furia is slow starters at events. I think they're slow starters in games. I do think they're by far the stronger team. But okay, I'll throw in a little bit of a wrench. I think Passion have a chance, and I'll predict them.
Well, I'm going to go Furia because it's in Rio, and this means a lot to the Brazilians and means them a lot to the organization. They can't lose this opening matchup. It's not happening.
Okay. Aurora.
And the last one.
Versus Hotu Koldu.
Hotu Koldu. It's got to be Aurora.
I'm picking Aurora as well.
With Soulfly, with how they're playing, with how they're going. Now, remember, the next format that comes in is going to be the format we don't like, but already ESL have said it's not going to be there in 2027, so I'm not going to just have a mental breakdown against that again. Top teams of the group go to semis. The other 2 teams from the group go to quarters, gives us a 6-team playoff. Group A, I'll do first. Group B, you'll do first, okay? So Group A, I'm going with Vitality, Falcons, and Spirit.
Let me
Nothing
check this
spicy,
group.
nothing crazy, nothing. No, and you know why? Because even though Hallie's not there, I can just guarantee that Spirit will play a little bit above what we've seen in recent times, and it should be enough to get them into there. And also, they're going up against Red Canids, Gentlemates, G2, Liquid, like 3D. The teams they're going to face to fight for that third spot, it's not tough. This isn't a hard group for even Spirit on a bad day.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. Nice
I'm gonna just copy the answer of Vitality, Falcon, Spirit.
Yep.
For Group B, I think this one is an interesting one because not only it's also because of how the bracket is set up. We're gonna have Na'Vi against Furia in an upper semi.
Yep.
We're gonna have probably Aurora versus Legacy / Mouse in another. I will say Na'Vi number 1. And I think it's a weird one, this one. I'm probably gonna say I'll give some back to Furia and say that Furia and Legacy will go through second and third.
Didn't expect that. Okay, so looking at how you looked at the bracket, right? Furia and Na'Vi meeting back in Krakow when Furia ended up taking second place. Furia actually eliminated Na'Vi from the lower bracket, went on that run all the way to second place. It was crazy. But this is a different looking Furia. It's an important event for them, but I will say Na'Vi will go through in first place, Furia second, and then Aurora third. I think Mouse will have a struggle again. Why?
Because they're both playing Na'Vi in semis. Furia has to go third, right?
Oh, yeah.
6-team playoff.
Yeah. I wasn't looking at it by that, by the way. I was just doing like that, the teams would go through. But yeah, it worked on the last one.
That's why I picked
Vitality
Legacy. Because I could see them winning against Aurora, getting to an upper bracket final against Na'Vi, losing, and then Furia fighting their way into lower bracket final win.
Yeah, but I would see Na'Vi. Yeah, okay. So I'd see Na'Vi Aurora go through. Yeah. And then that lower bracket one, I will pick Furia.
Yep.
Cool.
All right.
That makes sense. All right. So who's winning it all, Devilwalk? Any surprises? Yeah.
Hot to cold.
Vitality's never hot and cold. They're just hot all the time, making it work. I think Vitality will win. I would love to see Flamesy get MVP. It would be nice for the young lad. I think he deserves it. He's having a phenomenal event. Yeah. Just start, Zyru, just start humbling everyone in the community by just dropping off in playoffs and giving it to your teammate. Just like, here's your MVP. Here's your MVP.
I think they're gonna have to hire, Finn after every match. Like, how many frags can I drop that and Flames is still above me? Run all the calculations.
He's got a server to do it. It's all possible. Yeah. But there we go. We are done on our IEM preview. I think IEM Rio will be pretty damn good.
We have 2 more questions, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what is this?
So the first
I'll do the first one.
Okay, yeah.
No, actually, you do the first one because the next one's directly to you. So here we go.
Okay. From Black Sea. Questionable name.
These motherfuckers be trolling us, man. This can't be real. What? Wait, we have hit this territory of questions coming in from people who there's no way this is your real nickname, bro. You don't play CS with this nickname.
Him asks this question. Should Na'Vi gamble on a move like Frozen, or do you think the current lineup has the potential to take down Vitality?
We should gamble on a different nickname. We need someone to vet these nicknames and just change it.
When I read it out, I was like,
As you were reading it, I'm just, oh, this is going to be another one, isn't it? Okay. No, Na'Vi should not gamble on like Frozen could be an upgrade, and definitely in some roles he could be an upgrade. But do you break a team that's on the up now? Maybe you look at it after Cologne. We know that Na'Vi were interested in Frozen at one point, or there was a conversation had about being interested in Frozen at one point, but it never came to fruition. Maybe Frozen's probably thinking, maybe I'd like that move right now.
Some
but we
role
know how-
clashes with Makase, I would say.
Yeah, we would know how like Blade likes to do things, and it wouldn't make sense if Makazi just constantly going like this and growing. On paper, by name value, it looks good, but
It would fix their T-side Inferno because Frozen is like one of the best Inferno banana players in the world.
and Makazi will be like, "Teach me." Thank God I don't have to do this anymore.
Maybe they'll do the 6-man lineup. You just swap Makase in for Ancient.
For Inferno, yeah.
Frozen in for Inferno.
If I say you can't take Makazi out of other maps, Jesus, DW.
No. He's a fucking beast now.
Yeah. But yeah, and he says, do you think the current lineup has potential to take down Vitality? Not in their current form, but as they level up, maybe. But it's just, we keep saying it, the gap is too big, bro. The gap is way too big. All right. Skorga, of course, has a question. And not even aimed at me. Well, I can see who your favorite is, mate. Look at this. I don't even want to read the question out now. Maybe I just think, no, I have to be nice. I'm only messing. So he says, Dear Devilwalk, are you more excited for the Swedish team Alliance making the major than you were for Metasport? I honestly believe Alliance will not go 0-3 if they make the major. So I hope to see you waving a large giant Swedish flag at Cologne. Also, for the AACS LAN event, can I be hired as staff? PS, I'll sneak you a beer during the day if you do. Obviously, he sent this question in prior to knowing the
Great
invites.
way to get hired for an event, by the way.
Yeah. Give him beer, offer him beer. But ultimately, I don't think Alliance would have gone 0-3 if they made the major. That's for sure.
Metasports were turbulent. They were not playing a consistent way of CS. They kind of almost lucked their way into the major to some extent.
Yep.
Even though there were turbulence in the team and stuff. I was incredibly excited to watch Alliance almost make the major. Not only because of the players, I liked them, but I've had a continuous, almost for 2 years now, I have been talking to their coach on Discord. We had calls that lasted 2-3 hours about like getting tips in coaching and how to deal with issues, etc. And so I'm rooting for their coach Hawk as well.
Did you know him before? Or did he just like randomly reach out to you?
So I met him once at a Swedish event.
Mm-hmm.
We started talking. He introduced himself. We hung out a little bit. This was 3-4 years ago, and then he reached out to me, just like, "Can I have a conversation? I have some issues. I need some guidance on." And yeah, I had continuous conversations with him for quite a while. It's been a while now. It's going well, so I will not take any credit for what they've done now at all. But he's a very, very willing coach, wanting to learn, grabs inspiration not only from me but asking other coaches as well. So there's a lot of hunger and wanting to look into details about CS and gaining new perspectives. So rooting for him a lot, and I'm really glad to see it. They basically made me a fanboy again. For the first time I've been a fanboy since I was a player, I think. Yeah.
And also, I'll say this, right? He dropped the ego. Like, some people have an ego when they go into these roles, and he was willing to reach out and ask for advice that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people's problems. So really
there's a lot I like about Alliance, not only team-wise, but also organization with Loda, with Kelly, what they're doing, how they're invested into the Swedish scene, making their own brand, and obviously not having all the funds in the world to do it, but they've betted to make a long-term project. They've not made an incredible amount of changes. They've stuck through it and found solutions along the way. I love that about Alliance, and it makes me want to cheer for them because I understand that journey. I understand what it takes to do that. It's not easy. So I'm happy, really, really happy for them.
Definitely. Nice. Well, that brings us to the episode end of 56. It has been a crazy episode. We did everything from the VRS with Finn that went on for like 2.5 hours. We had some breaks with the baby. By the way, this is the beauty of the wireless headset. I'll say this, right, because I think it's no problem for me to say, is that obviously I'm sorry that I have to keep taking these breaks with it, but you have a newborn baby. My wife is needing a lot of help because she had surgery after having the baby. So, I got to be there and do the husband thing. But she still allows me to film the podcast and get on with it all, which is perfect as well. So we're making it work no matter what. Our next episode, will be Monday the 13th of April. After we'll be doing Bucharest.
Yep.
Nice. And then so what comes after all this then? So Bucharest goes into Rio, and then after Rio, a little small break into Blast Rivals. Oh, it's gonna be so long till I'm back at an event. But yeah, we got a string of events all the way grinding up until the major. A lot of waiting.
Is Vitality is Blast Rivals?
Yeah.
Or is it Bounty they haven't won? Or is it Rivals?
No, they won. Oh wait, maybe. No, did they win a Rivals? Did they? No, Rivals was in the end of the season last. Did they win a Rivals? Austin Major. Yeah, they won season 1 Rivals last year. Yeah, they did.
So it's the bounties they need. Okay.
It was just last time that Rivals was supposed to be in Mexico and ended up happening just in Denmark. So it's a very forgettable event. But yeah, things change now. So let's see if they can win back to back. They're still waiting for the bounty one. But they didn't attend. Did they attend? Oh, they did go bounty. They did do bounty. They used it as a warm up, right? Yeah.
It's too late.
Brain's farting. It's all gone. It's all gone into it.
It's too late.
But either way,
too late.
It's way too late. Crazy episode. Big thanks to Mischief for coming on. Thank you everyone for watching. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next episode. Anything else, DW? No?
Bye-bye.